Hello everyone, and welcome to Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting series on what if Naruto gained the power of the Ninjetti warriors. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. In the forest surrounding Konoha, we currently find our hero resting his back against the cabin he's sitting by. He just finished the Shadow Clone Jutsu and now was going to move on to another jutsu on the list. While looking over the scroll, there was a certain jutsu that called out to him. He looked down the scroll and found a jutsu that made him giddy. It was called the Great Power Quest Jutsu. The description said the jutsu was dangerous. No one knows what it does because all the people who used it just went up in a flash of light and were never seen again. The only person to use this jutsu and get out without dying was the Yondaime. He described the other end as a big pyramid with a huge symbol on it. He said that he heard a voice say, "Who dares seek the great power?" Somehow the Yondaime was able to get back here in one piece, and after giving this description he couldn't recall ever using the jutsu. The only thing he said about the great power is that, to those who possess the great power, all things are possible. After that, more and more people tried to use the jutsu, but more and more of them died. Eventually, to stop people from using them, the Sandaime put the jutsu on the Forbidden Scroll. After reading this, Naruto started to weigh the pros and cons of trying this. The pros were he could be better than Sasuke Teme. That was what sold him there. Just as he was about to attempt this, Iruka came into the clearing and we all know what happened. Skipping this part up to after Naruto does the Shadow Clone Jutsu. The hundreds of Narutos commence attack on Mizuki. What they didn't expect was for Mizuki to A. have a katana with him clipped on his waistband, and B. be a better swordsman than Hayate Gecko. When the clones charged Mizuki, Mizuki took that as a chance for him to cut loose on the shadow clones. Naruto instructed 10 of his clones to charge Mizuki. Mizuki just smirked and drew his sword. Mizuki spread his feet a shoulder width apart, and gripped his katana. In an instant, all of Naruto's clones stopped charging Mizuki and went up in a puff of smoke. Mizuki turned his sights on the rest of the Narutos and charged them, all while still having that smirk on his face. When he got out of the circle, 50 Narutos went up in smoke. Next, one clone jumped him with a kunai. Mizuki blocked it with his sword and swiped the clone. Mizuki continued his mad dash, taking out more and more shadow clones by the second. When there was 10 Narutos left, Mizuki laughed like a madman and said, "Whatever happened to killing me for hurting your precious Iruka-sensei? Just like all the other demons in the world, you're all talk and no action." When this began, Naruto was confident that he could defeat Mizuki because Mizuki was severely outnumbered. But in the span of 2 minutes, Mizuki drastically lowered Naruto's advantage. Naruto instructed all of his clones to form a ring so that Mizuki couldn't sneak up on any of them. Seeing this tactic, Mizuki just smirked and said, "Is this seriously the best you can do? A tactic so elementary that we teach it in the first year of the academy? You have really fallen from grace, you bastard fox. For me, and for everyone else who lost a loved one in your attack, I'll kill you right here and now, and rid our village of your evil forever. This is the end for you, demon." Mizuki started channeling chakra throughout his entire body. There was a small, almost invisible, blue aura surrounding Mizuki's entire body as his face twisted into one of intense pain and concentration. Mizuki said, "This is a technique I created just for tonight. Dance of the Prowling Lion." Mizuki suddenly disappeared, causing Naruto and his clones to be put on high alert. All of a sudden, afterimages of Mizuki started circling the ring of Naruto's. He was moving so fast, the afterimages were barely visible. After circling a few times, Mizuki took out one of the clones in the ring, causing the rest to look over there in shock. While they were in shock, 2 others went up in puffs of smoke. Mizuki started taking out more and more of Naruto's clones, until only Naruto was left. Naruto saw that the circle Mizuki was running around him started getting smaller until he was just out of Naruto's reach. One instant, Naruto was standing with a kunai in his hand to defend himself. The next, Naruto let loose a blood-curdling yell as Mizuki started to carve him up like an onion. Mizuki was moving like a madman, cutting Naruto everywhere. After what seemed like an eternity, Naruto dropped to the ground with blood gushing out of his wounds. Naruto didn't fool himself. He knew that with his wounds, he couldn't walk at all. He knew that he couldn't do a damn thing to defend himself. Even with his healing factor, he knew that these wounds were life-threatening to him unless he got immediate medical attention. Realizing that he was about to die, Naruto's life started to flash before his eyes. Even though it was short and in black and white. Allusion to Steve Urkel here. There were some moments that stuck out to him. Flashback. When Naruto was 8, he was constantly picked on by other kids. Even though Naruto didn't know it, those kids were told by their parents, and even some of the teachers, to make Naruto's life a living hell. Being bullied wasn't anything new to Naruto. The other kids always bullied him, but this one always stuck out to him. All the other times he was bullied, he was always alone and never had anyone to help him during or after the beating. This time, he did. The reason this one stood out to him was because this was the first time that someone his age helped him. After the kids who were bullying Naruto left, this girl came up to him. She had dark blue hair that was about 3 shades lighter than black, and she wore a baggy white jacket. She reached into a jacket pocket and pulled out some medical cream. She handed it to him, and he opened it and started to put it on his wounds. At first it stung, but eventually it started to stop hurting him. As he turned to her to thank her, she was gone, as if she was never there before. When Naruto was 9, he walked into class on the second week of school. Naruto hadn't done well the last year of school, so this year he was studying very hard to do well. As he went into class the next day, the teacher collected their notebooks to grade their homework. Naruto's teacher looked at Naruto's notebook and tore it up right in front of the class. After class, Naruto asked the teacher for a second one, but the teacher refused to give it to him. Naruto started to yell and scream at the teacher, but she only gave him detention. After detention, Naruto was walking home, depressed. Suddenly, he felt someone tap him on the shoulder. Turning around, Naruto saw that it was the same girl who helped him when he was being bullied. She held up a brand new notebook and helped Naruto through the lesson they were learning that day. This time, Naruto was able to thank her before she disappeared. A 12-year-old Naruto was looking at a midnight blue-haired girl and finally asked the question plaguing him since he met her. "Hinata, what's up with you? You faint out of nowhere, you blush when it's pretty cool out, and what's up with the stuttering?" Hinata said, It's because Sorry." Hinata then runs away quickly. Naruto then said, "Well, that's just weird. Ah well, Sakura-chan." Naruto was walking away from school and it was raining. Everyone else had an umbrella, but someone stole his. He held his head down and walked away, crying a little. But all of a sudden the rain stopped. He looked up to see a black umbrella opened over his head. He looked to his left and saw Hinata there. He said, "Thanks, Hinata." She said, No problem. I'll walk you home if you want." Naruto said, "That would be good." They walked off in silence. When they got to Naruto's house, he said, "Thanks again, Hinata. Hey, you wanna come in until the rain passes?" Hinata eeped really loudly and started blushing. She said, No thanks. I'm late for home as it is." Naruto was 8. He had just joined the Genin Academy and the kids were treating him awful. He was swinging on the swing outside of school. He was very sad, damn near crying. The kids in the class made fun of him and said that he would never become a ninja. Being a ninja was always Naruto's dream. He was on the swing outside school, wallowing in misery, when Hinata came over. She asked him, why are you crying?" Naruto felt the tears threatening to fall, but through sheer force of will, he kept them back in. Naruto lowly said, "The other kids. They say mean things about me, and hurt me and said I would never be a ninja." Hinata scowled and looked at the direction of the academy as she said, surprisingly without stuttering, "What do they know? They don't know anything. You have just as good a chance of being a ninja as the other kids do. As a matter of fact, I bet you could become the greatest ninja ever." While Hinata was talking, Naruto stopped crying a little. He rose his head up a little more while she was speaking. He said, "You're right. As a matter of fact, that's my new dream. I will become the strongest ninja ever. That way, people will see that all these things they say about me are wrong. Hey, thanks." "Oh, Hinata. Thanks, Hinata-chan." Hinata blushed, and said, "No problem." She turned around and started walking toward the gate of the academy. End flashback. After thinking it over, Naruto then puts the pieces together. Hinata acts around me like I act around Sakura sometimes. Wait a second, could it be that? No way, there's gotta be another explanation. There's no way Hinata has a crush on me. I mean, look at me, I'm basically public enemy number one around here. I practically live in a dump. She's the Hyuga clan heiress. She's probably the closest thing to royalty we have in this place. She probably has hundreds of guys who would throw themselves at her. I can't stack up to those people. Besides, a girl as nice as that doesn't deserve something as bad for her as I am. While thinking this through, he played dead to fool Mizuki into not keeping his eye on him. Once Mizuki turned his sights onto Iruka, Naruto made his move. Naruto quickly stood up, ignoring the stinging pains of protest his body gave him. He quickly ran to where the forbidden scroll was tossed at. Naruto quickly unrolled the scroll and saw the jutsu he was looking at before. Naruto did the hand seals from the scroll and called out, "Great Power Quest Jutsu." After that, Naruto's body started glowing white. Naruto felt he was being broken apart into billions and billions and billions of pieces. Then all those pieces were put together irregularly and moved quickly to another place. To outsiders it looked like he went up in a flash of white and the flash moved up into the sky. In an unknown location, Naruto just appeared in an unknown location. It looked like he was deep in a forest. There were hundreds of huge trees around him, but that wasn't what called his attention. What did was the huge temple in front of him that looked like a pyramid. It had a weird golden emblem of a crane, a frog, a wolf, an ape, a bear, and a falcon together. Looking around, Naruto saw that a white falcon was coming up to him. The falcon flew by him, then started glowing white. The glow was so strong that Naruto had to cover his eyes with his hands. When he moved his hands away, a 50-foot version of the falcon was there. It looked to be as big as the temple. The falcon turned its head to Naruto and looked at him with a huge glass-like eye. With a strangely deep voice without moving its beak, it said, "Why are you here?" Naruto was surprised by the size of the falcon and the fact it could talk, but pushed the feelings away for later. Naruto looked the creature right in the eye and said, "My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I came here to acquire the great power." The falcon gave Naruto a look as if he was crazy, then started laughing. The falcon said, "You? Why should I bestow upon you the power other mortals such as yourself have been trying to get from me for years? I shall not give you the power you so desire." Naruto said, "Come on, I really need this power. I have to help a friend of mine." The falcon said, "Too bad. You won't acquire the great power." Naruto narrowed his eyes in anger and said, "My friend is about to die out there. I need that power to save him and no one, not you, not the villagers, not even the tailed beasts will stop me from saving my friend. He's like a brother to me and I will do whatever I need to save him. Now I won't ask nicely again, give me that damn power." The falcon just stares at Naruto. After a while, the falcon said, "Naruto Uzumaki, you sure got guts to talk to me like that. You're the exact person I've been looking for 400 years. You need my power to save your friend. I'll give it to you, only if you become my successor." Naruto just stares dumbfounded, then said, "Successor to what?" The falcon then said, "I have chosen you to be the successor to the Ninjetti power of the White Falcon." "What is the whatchamacallit?" The falcon's sweat dropped. "If they can do that," and muttered something along the line of, "Stupid mortals," and "don't recognize power when they see it." The falcon then said, "The Ninjetti are an ancient group of powerful warriors. They come from a distant planet far away from where yours is located. They are all dead now, but the animal spirits that they worship still live and watch over their lands. The animals choose a group of people to fight for justice and tip the balance of good and evil to the side of good. They each represent an animal of the divine ninja. The Ninjetti sealed us into a tablet to save us from the terror that killed them. There are various animals, but I and my friends were released. I have chosen you to not only be the second successor to the Falcon powers, but also to choose the team. Even though we haven't known each other for long, something tells me that you won't disappoint. You might not be the sharpest talon on the claw, but when it comes to it, you're the one I can count on the most." Naruto narrowed his eyes, as if he was weighing the pros and cons, then said, "When do I start?" The falcon said, "Well, first you need to come with me so we can transfer the power and see if you are worthy." The falcon takes his talon and puts it on Naruto's head. Suddenly Naruto feels weird and a light glows under him. It encases him and the falcon and they suddenly disappear. At an unknown location, Naruto and the falcon had just touched down on some beach at some location. The ground was littered with rocks and no sand in sight. Noticing that the falcon had turned back to the regular size for a falcon, Naruto got a gloomy feeling. He thought to himself, I get the feeling that this is gonna be a long day. The falcon said, okay Naruto. Here we are. Naruto said, this is cool and all, but I really need to help my friend. The falcon said, my, aren't we impatient? Hold it kid, I need to find something. The falcon then takes off of Naruto's shoulder and looked around the beach. He eventually came back with a sword in his talons. It was completely white, with a black handle. After setting it down by Naruto and getting back on Naruto's arm, he said, Naruto, in order to find the power you need to save your friend, we need to go on a journey. We are currently on the planet of Grotha. We need to travel to the top of a special mountain on this planet. There, I have built a ceremonial ground where the powers of the Ninjetti can be passed on. Naruto, who is still worrying about Iruka, said, but every minute I spend here my friend is. The falcon, after hearing this for the umpteenth time, gets annoyed and said, boy will you pipe down. I know your friend is being attacked and I assure you he is perfectly safe. I'm using my powers to stop time on your planet. I can only hold this for 2 days though, so if I were you, I'd come on and come quick. The falcon flew off of Naruto's arm and onto the ground. Suddenly, it was engulfed in light. When the light cleared, the falcon was a human. The person standing there had on a white toga. His hair was black and so were his eyes. He bent down and picked up the special sword and said, come on Naruto, we gotta get a move on. Naruto looked on amazed. He said, what the hell? The falcon man said, this is me, in my human form. Now wipe that surprised look off your face and let's go. Naruto listened quickly and ran after him. They walked all along the beach. They eventually found a path that allowed them to get to higher ground. They hiked up and up for hours. Naruto looked back at the beach. It looked like they weren't making any progress. Naruto just sighed and moved on. After going a little further, Naruto said, so, what do I call you exactly? I can't go around calling you, guy, or, dude, all the time, can I? The man said, you are right Naruto. Call me Takesere. Naruto gets a thinking look on his face and said, falcon spirit, that's subtle. Takesere chuckled a little and said, whatever, just get going. After getting to the top of the cliff, they moved through the forest. Takesere was using his sword to cut up the forest around them and clear a path for them to walk. While they were going through the forest, they heard a scream. Naruto looked around for it, but Takesere didn't. He said, we need to get out of here quickly Naruto. Naruto said, someone just screamed. They're in danger, we have to help. Takesere said, there's no danger, the scream is. He was cut off as the bush rustled and 10 human-like creatures came out. They had on black spandex suits with red jagged lines all on it. They had a blade on their right hands. Their mask covered their entire face and they had a design of a dragon on it. Takesere sarcastically said, great. The scream is their hunting call. Naruto, we gotta fight our way out of this. Naruto nodded, crouched into a fighting stance, and said, right. Naruto charged the closest creature. The creature raised his right hand and tried to slash Naruto. Naruto dodged the slash and kicked the creature in its stomach. He then grabbed it by the head and threw it toward another one. Naruto immediately had to duck from an attack by another creature. He came back up and was about to punch the creature that tried to attack him, but got kicked in his back. He turned around to see another one there. He got up and was about to attack it, but was grabbed from behind by a creature. It had his arms in a full Nelson grip and wouldn't let go. Naruto tried and tried, but couldn't break out. The 2 creatures that he was fighting walked toward him and started slashing at him with their blades. Naruto's clothes were getting dirty and cut up. The wounds that had been healed during his walk with Takesere had started to open up again. Naruto tried to break out of the grip, but couldn't. Naruto thought to himself, how'd I get out of this? That's it. Iruka said you could focus chakra through your body to make you stronger. One of the very few lessons I didn't sleep through. Naruto then thought of a plan to get out of this situation. Naruto bent his legs a little, pulling the creature behind him forward more. When the other two creatures tried to attack him again, Naruto jumped back on the creature holding him, forcing the creature holding him to lean back. Naruto focused chakra into his feet and kicked the two creatures that were about to attack him. Naruto then shifted his weight so that he was falling forward, forcing the creature holding him to come along for the ride. As he was falling, Naruto grabbed the creature's head and positioned it over his shoulder. As soon as Naruto's butt hit the ground, he pulled the creature's head to impact with his shoulder, causing the creature to let Naruto go and jump back in pain. Naruto wasted no time in getting back up and delivering a kick to the creature's head. He turned around to see that Successor had just knocked out the other creatures. Successor turned around and said, "Come on Naruto, we gotta go." Naruto didn't need to be told twice. He took off, following Successor. While they were running, Naruto asked, "What were those creatures?" Successor said, "Those were the Kelzaks. This is their home planet. They were like the humans of your planet a long time ago, but they naturally have that blade on their right hand. Those clothes they wear are actually their skin. They also have increased strength, speed, and endurance. Their life here isn't as comfy as life on your planet. You guys have chakra, but they don't." Naruto said, "Well, how can I beat them? I have no training in taijutsu, kenjutsu, and I barely have training in ninjutsu." Successor said, "Don't worry. Just fight them. You'll learn better by doing anyway. Also, don't concentrate on just one. They hunt and fight in packs. I've seen packs as big as 100. You have to focus on the entire group or you'll be killed." Naruto said, "Thanks. I'll keep that in mind." All of a sudden they heard another scream. Naruto and Successor looked around for where it came from, but it was too late. They were surrounded immediately by 10 Kelzaks. Successor immediately jumped to one and attacked them. Naruto didn't have time to run to them. They came at him quickly. One tried to slash him with their blade. Naruto dodged the attack and then kicked that Kelzak. He jumped backward as two of them came from his sides to attack him. He ducked as another one behind him tried to impale him with their blade. While crouched down, he twisted around and swept the Kelzak behind him off its feet. A Kelzak dived and tried to tackle Naruto, but Naruto barely rolled out of the way. He stood up and blocked the punch one Kelzak threw at him. He tackled that Kelzak to the ground and rolled off of him. Naruto looked around and saw he was surrounded. He tried to attack one, but another ran forward and blocked him. Eventually he was grabbed by the monsters and was being pummeled. Luckily Successor came forward with his sword and saved Naruto. Naruto stood up on wobbly legs and said, "Thanks, Successor. I owe you one." Successor said, "You can repay me later. For now, let's move." And move they did. They kept moving and didn't stop until nightfall. By nightfall, they got to the base of the mountain and camped out in a cave. The next morning, they kept going forward, barely running into danger. By midday, they got to the top of the mountain on Grotha. On the mountaintop, there were a bunch of rocks arranged in a circle. There was a small pit dug in the center of the circle. Successor walked forward and turned to Naruto, saying, "Come on, Naruto. We can't wait long. Soon my powers will fade and your friend will be in danger." Naruto said, "What do I do?" Successor said, "Sit by the pit. I'll start the fire and start this thing." In a few minutes, they were ready to start. Successor sat down on the side of the fire opposite Naruto and said, "All right Naruto, meditate. Clear your mind of all that's troubling it. In order to pass this test, you'll have to let me see your entire life. I'll have to see every moment to make sure that my faith in you hasn't been wrong. After that, I'll transfer the power to you." Naruto gave a weak nod and closed his eyes. He slowed his breathing and waited for a while. Suddenly, he felt something weird in his head. Like something weird just entered it. He heard Successor's voice say, "Keep meditating, Naruto. This will only be a minute." After a few minutes, Naruto felt weird again. Like whatever went in his head had just left. Successor's voice came again. He said, "Wow. I'm very impressed Naruto. You're a natural-born leader. You actually care about someone other than yourself. You're a little bit of an idiot, but I know you're ready for this next step." Successor said, "Naruto Uzumaki, after looking at your memories, I grant unto you the power of the Ninjetti White Falcon Ranger. Will you accept this power and lead the Ninjetti Rangers to victory against evil?" Naruto said, Yes, Takesere, I do, without hesitation. Takesere laughed and said, good. Since Naruto's eyes were closed, he didn't see. But Takesere was engulfed in a white light. The light got smaller until it was a little white ball. The ball sailed through into Naruto's body. Naruto felt a weird power rise inside of him. After a while, he said, Naruto, open your eyes. Naruto opened his eyes and saw that Takesere was gone. He looked around, but then felt something on him. He looked down at himself to see that all of his clothes were replaced. Naruto stood up and thought to himself, what happened to my clothes? He heard Takesere's voice again. It said, Naruto, this is your Ninjetti ninja form. Before you ask Naruto, I'm inside your body talking to you telepathically. Anyway, with the power of the Ninjetti, you have two different forms. The first is the ninja form, the one which you are in now. Your power, speed, reflexes, and endurance is multiplied many times over. In this form, you have the natural ability to fly. The second form is the ranger form. The ranger form is much stronger than the ninja form. You have more special powers and have special protective armor. I can't go into detail about it now because we have to get back to your home planet. Naruto said, but how do we get home? Takesere said, one of the abilities of the Ninjetti is to transform matter into light, and allow them to move at the speed of light. That is how I will get you home. Back with Mizuki, after Naruto went up in a flash, Mizuki just started laughing. Heh heh heh. It looks like your student just went up in a flash. Seems he abandoned you when you needed him the most. Fool, I told you. Once a demon, always a demon. Now, prepare to die, demon worshipper. As Mizuki was about to dash, a flash of white light appeared where Naruto took off at not a minute earlier. When the flash of light subsided, there was a person standing there. He had on a white headband with a black diamond in the center of it. He had on a baggy, thin, white gi that went down to his waist and was tightened with a black martial arts belt so it wouldn't get in the way of a fight, but also wouldn't restrict movement. He had on white wristbands that went up to mid-forearm and had the sleeves of the gi tucked into them. The wristbands had black diamonds in them that looked like it absorbed all light and reflected none. He had on a face mask much like that of Kakashi Hatake with a hood on the back. He had on white ankle-length karate pants. His white boots went up to mid-shin and had his pant legs tucked into them like his wristbands had his sleeves tucked into them. His shoes doubled as shin guards. They also had black diamonds in them like the wristbands. Over his chest, he had a sleeveless, padded vest that went over his shoulders and provided protection for them also. On the front of his shirt, there was a gold-plated emblem of a falcon overlooking the horizon. Mizuki was wondering who this person was. He was close to being scared when he looked the person in the eyes and saw the blue eyes of Naruto staring back at him, even though they looked a little pale to him. Also, when the hell did Naruto become 5 feet 10 inches? He smirked and said, well, the demon came back to get his punishment. I hope you enjoyed your pathetic life, monster, because I'm gonna end it now. Iruka was relieved that Naruto came back, but Naruto got his ass handed to him last time. This time all he has is some new attire. How is that gonna help any? Mizuki charged Naruto with a battle cry and a smirk on his face. Naruto just stood there and remained still. When Mizuki was inches away, he hunched over Naruto's shoulder with a look of pain. He then started to be lifted up and you could see that Naruto's fist was buried in his stomach so far, it looked like it was about to come out his back. After throwing Mizuki to a nearby tree, Naruto moved his head to see Iruka still injured. He looked to Mizuki and said, Mizuki, you have messed up my life for the last time. You injured me, almost killed Iruka, and you tried to steal the forbidden scroll and pin it on me. For that, I'll make you pay. Naruto closed his eyes and when he opened them his eyes were a lot paler than before. He crossed his arms in front of him, on top of the insignia on his chest. All of a sudden, his forearms started glowing. The light started giving out stray sparks of white electricity. The anomaly grew to encompass his forearms. He then said, Ninjetti, Falcon Spirit, Ranger form. He moved his forearms to his side and the strands of electricity formed 2 rings around Naruto right on top of each other. The top ring moved towards the sky while the bottom ring went towards Naruto's feet. As the rings were passing Naruto's body, his clothes started to change. After the rings subsided, Naruto looked a lot different. He had on white spandex. Over it he had on a black vest with a gold outlining, and in the middle was the same emblem his other costume had. He had gold forearm and shin guards, a golden belt on his waist, gold armbands on both arms, gold shoulder guards, and also there was 2 small slits in the vest in the back like something is supposed to belong there. Also he had on a white helmet with a falcon design on it. It had a golden beak over the visor, then a gray part for the mouthpiece. It also had small blue eyes and what looked like feathers on each side of its head. He had an odachi sword with a gold sheath on his waist. The grip was white with black diamonds in them. The pommel was a black-eyed white falcon. The handle was a 1/2 foot long, and the blade was 4 feet long. Naruto turned to where Mizuki just got up from being thrown into a tree. Mizuki looked to where he dropped his sword when he was punched and started thinking up a plan to grab it. Naruto, in a much deeper voice, said, "Mizuki, now you'll pay." With that, Naruto moved his hands to the gold sheath on his waist. Naruto gripped his sword and drew it. The sword was completely white with a golden blade edge. Naruto grabbed the odachi with both hands, then disappeared. He reappeared behind Mizuki with his back facing him and his sword held horizontally in front of him. All of a sudden, a squelch was heard before Mizuki's arms let loose a torrent of blood. Mizuki yelled in pain as he dropped his knees. Naruto disappeared and reappeared beside Iruka. He said, "Now your life is over, Mizuki." Naruto held his sword up vertically. The sword glowed white while the gold edge lit up with a golden glow. The glowing sword started to break up into thousands and thousands of small little pieces. The pieces floated over to Mizuki and started to circle him. While Mizuki was looking at the glowing pieces with awe and a little bit of fear, Naruto pointed a finger to Mizuki and all the blades surrounded him and sliced through him. After the attack died down, Mizuki was bleeding immensely and blood was gushing out as Naruto walked up to him with his finger still pointed to Mizuki. Naruto then opened and raised his hand and the blades shot up and onto the hilt of his sword. They then reformed his sword. The person looked toward Iruka and walked up to him. After going up to Iruka, Naruto said, "Iruka-sensei?" Iruka said, "Naruto, catch me." Iruka was about to mutter, "Huh," but before he could, the rings that transformed Naruto reappeared and repeated their performance from before. This time though, they took the suit off of Naruto and left him in his old clothes, completely fixed. Unfortunately, Naruto was falling towards the ground, with Iruka barely catching him in time. Iruka was confused by all of this, but took Naruto to the Hokage's office regardless. Hokage's office. The Hokage watched this entire confrontation and was left speechless. He suspected Mizuki of being a traitor all along but didn't have sufficient evidence to back up this claim. After seeing Naruto disappear suddenly after yelling out Great Power Quest Jutsu, he knew he needed to get down there immediately. He threw off his formal robes and put on his battle gear. Just as he summoned the Monkey King Enma, he saw that Naruto came out to be alright. He saw his fight with Mizuki and honestly Sarutobi was impressed. He never saw anyone fight like that. And Naruto dominated Mizuki easily. He wondered what the extent of this power was. When he saw Iruka pick Naruto up and started to bring him here, he knew Naruto was destined for great things. He took his armor off and dismissed Enma and waited for Iruka's arrival. With Iruka finally arrived at the Hokage's tower after taking all the back streets of Konoha that no one lived on. He suspected that some ninjas would still be going after Naruto, so he took the long way. After climbing up the stairs he reached the Hokage's office. He opened the door and found the Hokage waiting for him. He went in and set Naruto down on the couch and started talking to the Hokage. After sleeping for some hours, Naruto finally woke up. He looked to see Iruka and the Hokage Sarutobi there looking at him. He looked around to see that he was in the Hokage's office. He looked at Iruka and said, "What happened here, Iruka? How did I end up here and where is Mizuki?" Iruka adopted a look of surprise on his face and said, "You don't know? You beat him and tossed him to the curb like yesterday's news, then sliced him up into ribbons. It's thanks to you I'm still alive." Naruto now looked confused. "I don't know what you're talking about, Iruka. I only remember getting the great power from Takeseire and being transported. After that it's all a blank. Who's Takeseire and what is this great power you're talking about?" All of a sudden a distant voice pops up and said, "I think I can answer that." Then Naruto, Iruka and the Hokage go up in a white flash of white. Takeseire's lair. Naruto, Iruka, and the Hokage were transported to the ceremonial ground where Naruto received the powers of the Ninjetti. Then came out a person with a baggy white toga with a hood on the back. He was also carrying the sword that Takesere had. He then said, "Hello. My name is Takesere. Welcome to my humble lair." Sarutobi, who didn't really care where they were, replied, "Who are you?" He said, "I am Takesere. I am the one who took over Naruto's body before. And I am also the great falcon spirit who was worshipped by the Ninjetti." "What happened to these Ninjetti people? Why did you say, was?" "I say was because the Ninjetti were killed ruthlessly by a planet-sized godlike being called Dark Spectre." Takesere sighed and said, "I guess I should start from the beginning. You see, I come from a different planet, called Phedos. On Phedos lived hundreds of warring factions. One of those factions were called the Ninjetti. They practiced what you call, the way of the ninja. But their own power wasn't enough to protect them from the others. While the other factions were warlike, the Ninjetti wanted peace. They eventually started praying that someone would give them the power to bring peace to Phedos and protect their kind. Me and the other animal spirits responded. Some of the Ninjetti offered their bodies to house our spirits. In their bodies, we protected the rest of the Ninjetti and brought peace and order to Phedos. This human form I am in now is the body of a man named Takaru, who gave his body to me. Afterwards, the entire planet started worshipping us animal spirits and thanked us for bringing peace to their planet. They were united under the Ninjetti name and peace reigned over Phedos for 100 years. But the peace didn't last. When word got around space of our power, Dark Spectre got jealous. That beast is godlike in power, and the size of his body is only dwarfed by his ego and his thirst for destruction. He wanted our power for himself, so he came to Phedos. When the Ninjetti got word of Dark Spectre's arrival, the first grand leader of the Ninjetti, named Akuma, asked them to build a pyramid. The great leader ordered all the animal spirits into the pyramid. He named me the grand leader of the Ninjetti, and then sealed all of us in the pyramid. He put special seals on there so that only someone with a pure heart and pure intentions could open it. One of my friends, the dragon spirit, must have known what Akuma wanted to do, because he left Phedos before we were sealed in and I hadn't heard from him until a little while ago. Akuma stayed out to fight Dark Spectre. Unfortunately, Akuma lost. Dark Spectre then had the Ninjetti try to open the seal, but they were all met with failure. Dark Spectre then killed the Ninjetti and left. That was 400 years ago. Ever since then, I had been looking for someone to break the seal. Someone who could help me get revenge on that bastard for what he did to the Ninjetti. Eventually, Dark Spectre put together an alliance called the Galactic Alliance of Evil, with him as the Grand Monarch of Evil. Together, the entire group plans to take over the entire galaxy with force. One of the last places standing between them and galactic domination is a planet on the other side of the galaxy called Earth. On there I have a friend named Zordon. He filled me in on what happened after I got sealed in the pyramid. He gave special powers to 6 teenagers on the planet to fight off the forces of a woman named Rita Repulsa and a man named Lord Zed. The team called themselves the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. They were victorious and eventually were able to take the power of the Ninjetti also. The Red Ranger gained the power of the ape. The Blue Ranger gained the power of the wolf. The Yellow Ranger gained the power of the bear. The Pink Ranger got the crane. The Black Ranger got the frog. And the White had me, the falcon. Unfortunately, their base of power was destroyed. Without their base, there was nothing anchoring us to the Power Rangers and they lost our power. We ended up being captured by someone named Rito Revolto. Rito was a servant of Dark Spectre's and was ordered to bring us to him, then start their domination plans on this side of the galaxy. Luckily, Dragon found us. He busted us out, but there was only a window of time for 3 of us to leave the prison. The ape, the bear, and the frog spirit knocked me, Crane, and Wolf out, and told Dragon to carry us to safety. He took us to our current base and since then, I've been looking for someone to help us. I came to this planet to find someone pure of heart to lead a team of heroes to protect this world from the evil forces of the Galactic Alliance and destroy the Galactic Alliance of Evil once and for all. Sandame then said, "But why Naruto? Why not pick ninja who have experience? They're just kids." "Because compared to the enemies they would have to fight, your ninja are nothing. I would need a team I can groom and train into my own warriors. A team who hasn't learned much and who can adapt easily. Also, I need those pure of heart. Someone who would be able to ignore the rivalries of your world and concentrate on saving the world as a whole. Can you honestly look me in the eye and tell me that you would use the power to protect everyone on the planet and not just Konoha? Sandaime was speechless. After hearing this, he saw that Takeserei's ideas were right. The ninja in his arsenal were already taught and wouldn't be able to learn something out of the blue that well. But kids who were genin were only taught the basics and not any specific style. They were the perfect students. And Takeserei was right that he couldn't. Takeserei would need someone who wouldn't be playing favorites. Someone who would protect all of the planet and not just Konoha. Sandaime then said, "How many warriors do you need to accomplish this?" Takeserei said, "I will need at least 4. I, the crane, the wolf, and dragon, all need acolytes. I have chosen Naruto. The other animal spirits won't leave our new base for fear of being discovered by Rito, or worse, Dark Spectre. If more than one of us leaves the protection of the temple, we could be tracked by Rito. Even though he's a bumbling idiot, he is still strong. But I have talked to them and the other animal spirits agreed to trust Naruto's judgment. We'll let Naruto decide who becomes Ninjetti, with him as the leader. But first, we need to ask Naruto if he wants to do this. This is a lot of responsibility and I don't want to pressure you into this, Naruto. Choose wisely." Naruto looked up into Takeserei's eyes and said with a glint in his eye, "I chose the moment I did the jutsu. I accept. That's why I picked you, Naruto. I knew you wouldn't disappoint me." "Thank you, Takeserei. Good decision, Naruto," said Iruka gladly. "Now Naruto, take this." Takeserei handed Naruto what looked like a silver watch. "Naruto, press this black button right here to be transported back to Gamma 4 where I and the Ninjetti spirits live. There we will begin your training." "Thanks, I'll make you proud, Takeserei." "Hold up," said Sarutobi. "What will happen if Rito wins?" "Right now, there are few teams battling against the Galactic Alliance of Evil. The Power Rangers of Earth, the Equation Rangers of Aquitar, the Gold Ranger of Triforia, and this team I'm putting together here. The other 3 are not aware of our presence, nor is the Alliance of Evil, but if even one team falls, the Alliance will be able to take over and rule the galaxy. If we lose here, all hope for good in this galaxy will be gone." That statement had them realize how big this situation was. The fate of the universe lies in their hands. Sarutobi stepped up and said, "If there's anything we can do to help, you have my full support." "Thank you. So when do we start?" said Naruto. "Today. I will take you to Gamma 4 to the other spirits. There we will help you train in martial arts and help you control your powers. We will train you for a week, and then you will go back to your home planet to pick out our teams." "Okay then, let's go." Iruka came up and said, "Make us proud, Naruto." With that, Sarutobi and Iruka went back to Konoha in a flash of black, and Naruto and Takeserei went to Gamma 4 in a flash of white. Summarized version of training. Naruto got to meet and learn about all the Ninjetti spirits who were with them. The dragon spirit was kind of weird and hyperactive, but he was also very wise. Also, he was pretty good with technology. According to Takeserei and the others, Dragon single-handedly installed all the machines in the base. The crane spirit, called Kijukasere, quickly became like an older sister or mother figure to him. She always made sure that he took enough breaks during his training, and she made sure that he was perfectly healthy every day. The wolf spirit, Ukamisere, was stubborn, and him and Naruto bumped heads often. Also, Ukamisere was like a slave driver, he didn't want or accept anything less than perfect. He was kind of cocky, but he had all reason to be. He was one of the strongest people Naruto ever met and he had the ability to talk to all species, a natural omniglot. Kijukasere and Ukamisere were like complete opposites. Where she wanted him to take frequent breaks, he wanted to work Naruto into the ground without breaks. Kijukasere wanted Naruto to never go past his limits, whereas Ukamisere wanted to force Naruto past them. Because of this, they frequently butted heads. If you didn't know them well, you'd think that they hated each other, but they were the best of friends. Naruto was mainly taught by Takeserei, but the others frequently looked in on the training and suggested things to Takeserei to teach Naruto, or they gave Naruto tips to understand the lesson he was stuck on. While he was there, he learned about a lot of the other rangers. Even though the Ninjetti spirits had left the other rangers' Earth, they frequently spied in on what was happening there. It seemed like that planet was always in the center of some battle over good and evil. While he was looking in on them, Takesere taught him about their many enemies. Also, he was taught the pros and cons of their fighting styles, and if they were lucky, he saw their battles to see their fighting abilities in action. During his stay with the spirits, Takesere and the others were able to set up a telepathic communication with him. It was designed so that it would work whether or not they were morphed. Since Naruto was Takesere's chosen ranger, he could talk to Takesere telepathically whenever he wanted. Sadly, he could only talk to the other spirits or other rangers telepathically if they were on the same planet. Naruto didn't see that as much of a setback though. Also, it turns out that the Kyuubi no Yoko sealed in Naruto woke up during Naruto's quest to acquire his Ninjetti powers. Luckily, it hadn't tried to get out of the seal, but it can mentally speak to Naruto now. The Kyuubi rarely spoke up, so it was basically forgotten about most of the time. Also, since he joined his power-up with Takesere's, his vision started getting better. Naruto never told anyone before, but his vision had been getting worse as he grew older. If it kept going on, he would have needed glasses. Luckily, Takesere's power in his body brought his vision back up to perfect. It also added a pseudo-dujutsu to his eyes that Naruto decided to call Eagle Vision. What it did was allowed him to zoom in on something. That way, he could see something far away as if it was right next to him. Also, with the ability turned on, he could see greatly in the dark. Before he knew it, it was time to go back to his home planet and pick out the teams. He had some pretty good guesses of who to choose. So he went home with the intent of finding out who would be the next Ninjetti warriors. Back at home, back at Konoha, things were for the most part the same. Well, if you call everyone in the village partying normal. They heard from the kids in Naruto's class that he was the only one who didn't graduate the academy. Because of that, they decided that they would rub it in his face whenever they saw him. The problem with that plan was that Naruto was never around. In the entire time he was gone, they hadn't heard or seen him at all. Thinking the worst, everyone thought that he threw himself off a cliff or something because he failed the exam. Also, they hadn't seen any Anbu around looking for the kid, so they suspected that the Hokage had already found his body and decided not to tell them, and they were partying in hopes that he was dead. Only two were actually looking for him, Hinata Hyuga and Kiba Inuzuka. It was common knowledge to everyone in the village except Naruto that Hinata was deeply infatuated with him. When she didn't see him for a few days, Hinata decided to go to his house to see if she could cheer him up. The only problem was that he wasn't there. When she couldn't find him at his house, she started looking around the village at his favorite places to see if she could find him. When she couldn't, she decided to get Naruto's friend Kiba to find him with her. Kiba was among the few people in the academy who was friends with Naruto. When they first met, Kiba insulted Naruto and kept making fun of him, but after a friendly discussion, and a little bit of ass-kicking, Kiba grew to respect and even like Naruto's company. It wasn't unusual to see Kiba and Naruto sitting at a lunch table making plans to prank people or to just race or spar each other. Together, they kept the village lively. With Kiba's help, Hinata started combing the village for Naruto, but sadly they hadn't found anything. Eventually, Kiba remembered that Naruto was close to the Hokage, so they went to the Hokage and asked him. Sarutobi knew that they were some of Naruto's closest friends, so he told them that Naruto left the village to train by himself. After the group left the tower, Kiba looked to the clouds and saw a white light come out of them. He told Hinata and they followed the light's path and saw it land on the Yondaime Hokage's head. Then the light disappeared. Naruto looked around the village to see that nothing had changed. He climbed down the Yondaime's head and went to the Hokage's office, barely avoiding his friends who went to the monument to see what that light was. He popped in on the Hokage doing paperwork. He decided to surprise the old man. "Hey old man, still doing that paperwork?" The Hokage jumped in surprise, knocking over all of the paperwork on his desk. He said, "Naruto, you scared me." Naruto chuckled and said, "I must be improving. You're one of the strongest ninja in the world, yet I could sneak up on you." Naruto looked at the work on the floor and said, "You still haven't found out the secret to doing all of that yet?" Sarutobi sarcastically said, "Oh, and you have?" Naruto smirked and said, "Yes, I have. You ever hear of the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu? Whatever the clones hear, see, read, or learn, you do when they disperse. That is probably how the fourth Hokage could get his work done so fast. Sarutobi closed his eyes in thought, and then shot his eyes open quickly. He then started banging his head on his table muttering, "Why the hell did I not think of that?" Naruto just sat back laughing at his grandfather figure. Eventually, Sarutobi stopped punishing himself and said, "How was your visit with the spirits?" "It was really good. I learned some kung fu, learned of some enemies I might fight, and of the other rangers. Now that I know some of the spirits personally, I can pick out people who can become ninjetti like me. All I have to do is present them to the animal spirits so they can judge. If they pass, they become Power Rangers. If they fail, their memory is wiped and they're sent home." The Hokage narrowed his eyes in thought and said, "Does the memory wipe have any negative effects on people?" Naruto said, "Nope. The spirits said you have a headache and are dizzy for a while, but other than that, there are none." The Hokage said, "Good. Our village already gets enough of a bad representative because Kakashi reads porn in public and Guy dresses up in all spandex. I don't need my genin looking like they just won a drinking contest." The Hokage paused in his speech for a bit, then said, "Naruto, I have a bad feeling for today. I don't know what's causing it, but I feel that something bad is going to happen. Whatever happens, stay safe, Naruto." Naruto nodded his head, said, "I will, old man," and left out of the Hokage's office. Naruto left the Hokage's tower and went to get something to eat at the Ichiraku ramen shop. While going there he heard an explosion. This cannot be good. Since the Hokage monument has a view of the entire village, Naruto ran to the Shodai's head and looked to where the explosion happened. He used his eagle vision to see a bunch of hawk-human hybrid creatures walking into the village. They had arms covered with black feathers that could change into wings for flight and clawed feet. They had a purple vest on that looked like armor. They were covered with black feathers and had beaks for mouths. Tengus. He realized with wide eyes. He was taught about them. Crazy birds that were the opponents of the original Power Rangers. They were first brought there by Rito Revolto when he was helping his sister, Rita Repulsa. It seemed that he kept a few for himself. Naruto communicated to Takesere. Rito must have begun his assault on the planet. This is weird. Why would he choose Konoha of all places? Takesere replied, "Because Konoha has the most villagers. Think about it. With all of these villagers being attacked, word will spread to other nations quickly. Once Konoha falls, the others aren't that far behind. You've been training for this moment. You vowed to save this world and the universe from these people. Well, here's your chance. You can do it." Naruto walked up to the edge of the Shodai's head. He took a deep breath, and said, "Right now, there's no turning back. These people waged war on this planet and the galaxy. I may be a lone fighter here, but if I'm going down, then I'm going down fighting." Naruto then jumped off the Hokage monument. While he was falling, he crossed his arms in front of him. He then yelled, "Ninjetti, Falcon Spirit, Ninja Form." A new set of garments came over Naruto's old ones. He was dressed in the same form as he was when he first appeared in the forest after the quest for the great power. Naruto turned his head upwards and his body turned with it. Somehow, Naruto defied gravity and started levitating upwards. He turned his head toward where the Tengus were coming from and flew towards there. At the Tenga attack site, the Tengus were marching through Konoha easily. They shot fireballs out of their mouths to set buildings on fire on their way to the Hokage Tower. The screams of the villagers were like music to their ears. They could spend all day terrorizing random people and watching them run like cowards, but they had orders. And their orders were simple. 1. March into Konoha. 2. Leave a path of destruction to the Hokage Tower. 3. Kill the Hokage. 4. Show his head all over the world. 5. World domination. There were some ninjas who actually stayed behind and fought, but with the number of the Tengus and weak skills of the ninja, there was no opposition. Originally there were 40 Tengus and 60 ninja. The rest were told to take up defensive positions around the Hokage Tower and other places around the village in case there were other attackers. As the fighting dragged on, there were only 30 Tenga left, but the ninja were dropping like flies. Most of the Junin and Chunin were taken out, and the few genin in the battle were told to carry the wounded soldiers to the hospital, lessening the numbers of the ninja. Eventually the only ninja left were Kurenai Yuhi, Kakashi Hitaki, Asuma Sarutobi, and Maeda Guy. Guy's genin stayed and helped fight, against his wishes. They were doing well, but the Tengus were too good for them. The Tengus had the ninja on the rope, and now it was time to move in for the kill. One of the Tengus came out and said, "We beat them, my brothers. We crushed the strongest opposition this planet could give us. Now let's move forward. Today, Konoha no Sato, tomorrow the world." "Not if I have anything to say about it," said a voice from above. The Tenga looked up and saw a man in white fly down and dropkick him. The person then kicked a Tenga on the right of him and clipped one behind him trying to tackle him. The Tenga leader, talkative one, said, "Who are you?" Naruto said in a magically deepened voice, "I am the Falcon Ninjetti Ranger, and your worst nightmare." The Tengas were shocked. They heard from their brothers who survived the Earth invasion that the Ninjetti Rangers were near unstoppable. The best of the best tried but couldn't beat them. The Tengus started to get scared until one pointed out there was only one of him and 30 of them. That renewed their confidence and started to attack him. When the Tenga began their attacks, Naruto started dodging like crazy. Not one of them hit him. He ducked under a Tenga that tried to punch him, grabbed one of their wings and swung in a circle. He batted all of them away. The other ninja were astonished at this. They were beaten into a pulp by the Tengus and one person comes up and takes them all on. At this point, the word of the invasion got around to everyone in the village, and the newly graduated genin went to the scene to see what was going on. As they arrived, they all stood there with their jaws on the ground looking at that amazing display of power. As usual, Sasuke immediately became jealous of this person. How can this no-named person come up and take down all these creatures? All the Junin in the village attacked these monsters and he walks in here and doesn't take a scratch. How did he get that power? For all we know he could be an enemy. I deserve that power. I'm an Uchiha. Sasuke said. This guy doesn't know what he's dealing with. I'll stop these monsters myself. So Sasuke ran into the fray with his entire cheering squad cheering him on. As he was about to join in, he jumped over the head of one Tenga and was kicked away by Naruto. Naruto picked up Sasuke by his collar and threw him into Kakashi, who had just injured a Tenga with his patented rakery. He said, "Watch him and don't join in. I can't guarantee your safety if you do." Naruto went back into the fray tackling a Tenga. He was about to turn around when he was knocked down by a fireball, courtesy of a Tenga. Then all the Tenga joined in shooting fireballs at him, trying to fry him. The genin in the crowd who were watching felt a sickening feeling at this. Somehow they knew that they needed to help this masked man. They looked at the battle again and without thinking jumped into the fray. Choji was in front and used his human boulder jutsu. He rolled over 15 of the Tenga. Kiba was next, using the all-fours jutsu. He ran and hit 2 of them while his ninja dog Akamaru went to bite some of them, trying to make it easier for them to be taken down. Hinata came next and used her gentle fist taijutsu on 4 unsuspecting Tengus. Shino came and used his chakra bugs to suck the energy of the Tengus. Shikamaru came last and caught the last 2 Tengus in his shadow possession jutsu. He had them keep slapping each other and then released them so Neji could use his Juken on them. Tenten started throwing her weapons at the Tenga who got up from the attack. Sasuke was still hurt from that kick Naruto gave him. Ino and Sakura were standing over him, trying to help him. But some things must come to an end. The Tengus had no chakra, so Hinata's and Neji's attacks only felt like taps to them. They came and kicked Hinata in the chest and Neji in the head. The Tenga then kicked the Hyuga duo away from them. The Tenga Choji rolled over were only dizzy for a moment, and the weapons were hitting their vests, so they got back up, ganged up on him, and threw him by Hinata. The bugs from Shino didn't like the taste of the Tenga's energy and came back to Shino. Since Shino had no taijutsu training, he was defeated easily. Shikamaru found out it took a lot of energy to hold the Tengus and they easily beat him after they defeated Neji. Kiba was holding his own for a little while. He would hit one, then hit another, then keep going in that pattern, but they started dodging and they kicked him back to where everyone else landed. They threw Akamaru off easily. The other genin stared in shock at what the others were doing. They looked at their headbands, and then threw them on the ground. They started running away, finally realizing the true danger that comes from being a ninja. As the Tenga were closing in on them, Guy had jumped in front of the Tengus, trying to protect the genin. But it was proved unneeded when one genin in a green spandex jumpsuit jumped over the downed genin and kicked the Tengus away. He went toward them with amazing speed and started beating them and not letting up. As he was fighting, you could see a green aura around him. He blew through the Tengus until he ran out of energy, stopping by the others and kneeling down. He was catching his breath when the Tengus came back. His attacks only downed a few of the Tenga warriors. They were about to be on them when someone flipped over the Tengus from behind and landed in front of the others. His suit was singed in a couple of places, but overall Naruto was fine. He turned to the group and said, "Thanks for your help. I appreciate it, but it looks like it's time for me to finish this." Naruto crossed his hands in front of his chest. All of a sudden, a white glowing energy gathered around his forearms, giving off sparks of electricity. He threw his arms to his side, while yelling out, "Falcon Spirit, Ranger Form." When Naruto threw his arms to his side, a trail of electricity connected his forearms, forming a ring of electricity around his waist. The ring solidified, and then split into two rings on top of each other. The top ring moved towards Naruto's head while the bottom one moved towards his feet. As they were going, they transformed Naruto from his ninja gear to his ranger form from the woods the day he saved Iruka. After he transformed, he drew his sword. He held it up and mentally said, "Good. I'm able to transform. You ready to win this fight, Takesere?" Takesere replied, "What are you asking me for? This is your fight. Good luck." Naruto charged forward. He held his sword in his right hand. He swung the sword around and hit a Tenga across the chest. It cut through the armor. Naruto saw two Tenga coming at him from either side, so he turned to his left. He brought the sword around and sliced that Tenga across his chest, spouting blood. Naruto then kicked the Tenga in its chest. Naruto turned to his left, kicking that Tenga with his left leg. Naruto charged another Tenga, but stopped 3 feet in front of him. He then jumped up and held the sword above his head. When gravity reclaimed him, he fell down. Naruto pulled the sword down and cut the Tenga in half vertically. Naruto ducked under a kick, then grabbed the foot with his empty hand and stood up, cutting the leg off. The Tenga screamed as his limb was amputated. Purple blood was flying everywhere, mainly on Naruto. Naruto jumped backwards, dodging the fireball shot at him from a Tenga. Naruto held his sword up vertically with the pommel down. He then said in a calm and commanding voice, "Slice them to ribbons, Takesere." The sword then glowed white and gold and broke up into thousands of little pieces. He thrusted his hand at the Tengus and the pieces went after them. The Tengus thought little of them since they were small, but that was a fatal mistake since the blades rushed toward them and cut them up. Purple blood and black feathers were coming off the Tenga warriors. The Tengus couldn't fight back since the pieces were so sharp and small. They tried to get to Naruto, but whenever they got within 5 feet of him, Naruto made a hand gesture to make the blades come back, then would send them to impale whichever Tenga came forth. The blades swiped past the Tengus, drawing blood each time. After 2 minutes of this, they came back and reformed into Naruto's sword. He ran up and cut one of the Tengus arms off. The Tenga shrieked as its arms fell off and blood was spewing from his wound, some of the blood landing on his suit. Naruto jumped over a fireball aimed at him by the Tenga and hit another fireball back. He kept hitting them back like he was at the batting cages. After a few times, Naruto got tired of this, so he focused energy into the gold edge of his sword. He then swung and released the energy and it made a huge crescent-shaped wave that hit all of the Tenga. The Tengus he was fighting got back up and screamed in terror and started to fly away with the ones that the other Junin were fighting. The only one left was the Tenga whose arm Naruto cut off. Naruto focused more energy to the end of the blade and shot off another wave that hit all the runaway Tengus. A big scream was heard and purple blood and black feathers fell down from the sky. Naruto put his sword in its sheath. He crossed his forearms in front of the crest on his chest. He then said, "Falcon Spirit, Ninja Form." When he moved his arms to the side of his body, he was transformed to his ninja suit. He walked up to the Tenga with his wings cut off. He chopped him on the back of the neck to knock him out and turned to the ninja. "I need a medic. Quick." The ninja stared at him dumbfounded until he said it again. Guy got up, said, "Yes," and ran to get a medic. When he came back, Naruto was sitting and said, "Stop the bleeding. I need to interrogate it and I need it alive to do that." The medic moved to the Tenga and started healing its wing back onto its body. The arm was able to successfully attach back to the Tenga. While the medic was healing, Hinata came up to Naruto and said, "Thank you for saving us." Naruto said, "I was just doing my job. I should be thanking you and your friends for holding them off for me to get back up. If you hadn't done that, I don't know what would have happened." Naruto got up and walked over to Shikamaru and the others and said, "Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it." He moved over to the other ninjas there and walked up to Sasuke. He stood in his face for a second, said, "Listen. I know you were trying to help, and I'm sorry about that kick, but I had to do it. If you would have joined in the fight, you would have gotten yourself hurt. When you all stay in a group, it's easier to protect you. But if you break off into separate parts, then it gets a whole lot harder. Also, your actions got the other genin hurt. I can tell by that headband you wear that you want to be a ninja. You have to learn that your actions have repercussions. Also." While Naruto was talking, Sasuke got back up. After being lectured to for a while, he cut Naruto off and said, "Who the hell do you think you are? I am an Uchiha, the elite. You should be on your knees begging for my forgiveness right now. My family was the best of the best. Yet it only took one ninja to kill the entire family. The Uchiha got too cocky. Their cockiness is what got them killed, and your cockiness might get you and everyone else with you killed too. You have to think before you act next time." Naruto walked away after that. Sasuke was enraged. Who does this person think he is? He thinks he can walk up to me and lecture me like I'm a baby. I'm an Uchiha. I won't stand by and let this loser talk to me like that. Sasuke was so enraged he took a few steps forward, then started forming hand seals, and then yelled, "Fire style, Grand Fireball Jutsu." Sasuke took in a deep breath and fired the Grand Fireball Jutsu on Naruto. Even though Naruto had his back turned, he could still hear Sasuke yell out the name of the jutsu. Naruto acted quickly, transforming back into ranger form and sending out a wave of energy to counter the Grand Fireball. The Grand Fireball held strong, but eventually gave out to the power of the sword's attack. The wave sailed forward, through the Grand Fireball, and blasted by Sasuke's feet. The shockwave of the hit blasted Sasuke and knocked him back. Sasuke flew back and landed next to Sakura and Ino. The medic saw this and stopped his treatment of the Tenga and went to help Sasuke. Sakura and Ino came up and tried to slap Naruto, but he grabbed their hands. Sakura said, "Why did you do that to Sasuke? What did he ever do to you?" "Yeah." Ino said. "Why did you do that to Sasuke? What, you're jealous of him?" Naruto said, "Me? Jealous of him? What's there to be jealous of? Besides, it's his fault. If he wouldn't have jumped into the battle, the other genin wouldn't have had to jump in. I could have taken out the Tenga with no problem. But thanks to him, I got ganged up on and the other genin almost got killed. I'm just thankful that no one got hurt." Sasuke has an anger problem and a superiority complex. Those two things could get people killed. Mainly the people Sasuke's with. All I tried to do was explain why I kicked him, and he interrupts me and attacks me. "He's right, girls," said Kakashi. Sasuke underestimated the opponent and got himself and his allies almost killed. If the guy hadn't done that, the casualties would be much more severe. Naruto said calmly, "I couldn't care less about what family he comes from. I do this to save this village, this planet, and this entire galaxy, not some Uchiha's pride." Naruto walked to the Tenga, who was the leader of the raid, on the ground and punched him in the chest. The Tenga woke up with a yell. Naruto then said, "Why did you come here?" The Tenga looked around for his friends, but didn't see any of them coming. He looked at Naruto and said, "I'll never tell." Naruto then said, "Never is such a negative word." Naruto pulled out his sword and stabbed the Tenga in the chest. "Your friends aren't here. I killed them all and I can easily kill you. Now tell me what I want to know or I'll kill you." The Tenga yelled, all right, I'll tell you. We came here to kill the Hokage. We were gonna parade his body throughout the elemental nations and scare the other nations into servitude for our own army. Taking the ninja of this planet as our own army would have made it easier for our ultimate plan." Naruto then asked, "Are there any humans working with your boss?" The Tenga said, "I'll never tell all." Naruto pushed energy to his blade to burn the Tenga. "I want to know now." "Yes. They're a group called the Akatsuki. He forced them to become his servants. The group was trying to collect 9 beasts they called the Biju before we took over. There's also a guy named Orochimaru who's with us." Are they spreading their influence anywhere else? Tell me how many beasts they have. Okay. Orochimaru said he could get Tsunagakure to join us. He also said that Jinchuriki were harder to defeat than the regular Biju, so they're trying to use one of the three-tailed beasts they have to create a Jinchuriki to fight for us. That's all I know, I swear. Now please let me go. Fine. Naruto pulled his sword out of the Tenga's gut and said, "You're free to go." The Tenga started running away as soon as he ended his sentence. But it didn't get far as Kakashi yelled, "Reikari," and stabbed the Tenga through the gut. The green spandex-wearing ninja who helped in the fight came over and said, "Thank you for your assistance today," said Lee. "It was nothing," said Naruto. Lee said, "I will become as strong as you one day, and if I can't do that, I'll run around Konoha 300 times on my fingers with boulders on my back, and if I can't do that, I'll climb the Hokage monument with my teeth, and if I can't do that, I'll try to plow through the Hokage monument." "That's the spirit, Lee," said Guy. "Your fountain of youth shines brightly." Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy-sensei. They embraced each other in a hug where a beach with a beautiful sunset appeared out of the blue. Naruto looked at Lee and Guy and said, "No amount of therapy will ever make this right." Naruto powered back down to his Ninjetti form and flew away, not caring who saw him. By the Hokage monument, Naruto flew to the Hokage monument and demorphed there. He sat down on the ledge and let out a big sigh. "That was a lot harder than I thought it would be." "You're telling me? I thought you would be able to handle them easily since Tommy could, but I guess he had more fighting experience than I thought. I guess I still got work to do. But back to the real mission. You already know who I was thinking of suggesting for the team and you saw them fight today. What do you think of them? Do you think that those two are good suggestions?" "You mean Hinata and Kiba? They're excellent choices. What about the Dragon Ranger? You got any thoughts about that one?" "Nope. I guess we'll just have to wait a little longer until someone can fill that spot. But anyway, how do you think I should approach them about becoming part of the group?" "Try teleporting them there after you meet them." "Okay. But wait, they're gonna ask me about where I was." "A fight that big? There's no way I'd miss it. Where do I say I was?" "Say you were escorting the villagers to the safe bunkers under the Hokage monument." "Wow, you're good at this lying thing. How did you become so good?" "It comes with being a leader, Naruto. You'll find out soon." Naruto walked down the monument on the stairs and tried to find his friends. He found them waiting at Ichiraku's ramen stand. He walked in saying, "Hey guys. Where have you been? I've been waiting for you guys at the bunker below the Hokage monument, but you weren't there." Kiba said, "We were waiting here for you. Dude, these bird things started attacking the village. They started shooting fireballs at everyone, and then this guy in white came flying down and kicked their asses. The Junin didn't even kill as many as he did." Naruto widened his eyes in fake surprise and said, "You guys were at that battle? From what I heard he did that to be on our good side only to kill all of us." Kiba said, "What the hell are you talking about? Who told you that?" Naruto said, "I overheard some villagers saying it." Hinata said, "It seems like they're saying that because Sasuke got injured by the guy." Naruto's eyes widened in fake surprise and said, "The guy kicked Sasuke's ass? Damn, I wish I was there. I would have helped him." He sat down at the counter as they started explaining what happened at the battle. Naruto was being coached through the entire thing by Takesere so he would know what questions to ask and when so he wouldn't slip up. As they were leaving the ramen stand, Kiba said, "Naruto, the Hokage said that you went out of the village training for a week. What were you training for?" Naruto said, "Follow me and I'll answer you." Naruto led them to an alley where no one could see them. He stuck his hand out and said, "Guys, hold my hand." Kiba looked at Naruto weirdly and said, "Ooh, Naruto, I don't roll that way." Naruto said, "Just grab my hand. I need to show you guys something." They all grabbed his hand and went up in a flash of white. Command Center. They all landed on the floor of the command center. All around them were monitors and stands. On their right were tubes that were colored white, blue, pink, green, brown, black, red, and yellow. Think of the command center from Power Rangers Turbo for the appearance. I can't begin to describe anything in there. The ceiling of the command center opened up and in flew a large falcon, a gigantic crane, and a huge dragon. The dragon coiled itself up and laid its head on the ground so that it was somewhat eye level with the group. The falcon and the crane stood up to their full height. A piece of the floor dropped down, and when it rose back up, a large blue wolf was on top of it. The wolf walked over to the other spirits and laid down. Successor started talking, all the while his falcon form's beak didn't move an inch. "Hello, young ones. My name is Successor, and welcome to the command center." Kiba then said, "Ooh, Naruto, what the hell is going on here?" Naruto then said, "Sit down, you're in for a long story." When they sat down on the chairs by the monitors, Successor said, "What I'm about to tell you is of the utmost importance. It must remain confidential. We will tell you our story, and offer you something. If you accept it, then fine. If not, then your memory of this conversation will be erased from your mind and you'll think you just went and trained with Naruto. Are you okay with that?" Kiba and Hinata just nodded wordlessly. They were too stunned at the fact that the animals were talking. Successor said, "All right, it all started on the planet of Phedos." Hinata interrupted, Another planet? But I thought that this one was the only one able to sustain life." The wolf said, "That's a lie. Of course other planets can sustain life. You just haven't found which ones. Anyway, on Phedos." The Ninjetti spirits then told them what Successor told Naruto. After the story, Hinata said, "Wait, if there's other sentient life in the GGG galaxy, did they give our planet a name?" The crane said, "Your home planet is called Gwinnett by the others in the galaxy." Kiba said, "Wait, what happened to the other kids from Angel Grove?" Successor said, "They're alive and are still fighting evil now. The only problem is that our connection to them was only through the power coins they kept with them that let them use our power, and their base. When their base was destroyed, the connection was broken. With you young ones, the connection will be a soul bond, which is unbreakable." Hinata said, "What does this mean if we want to do it?" Successor said, "You will have to put aside your petty fights with the other elemental nations. You will need to protect others from the Tenga, no matter who they are. Also, you will need to be content with killing the Tenga and anyone else that Rito sends your way. Can you handle that?" Hinata and Kiba started staring at their toes, deep in thought. For Hinata, this would be a hard decision. Help the other elemental nations? That would mean Kumogakure also, the place that was behind her attempted kidnapping when she was 3. When her dad, Hiyashi Hyuga, saved her, the Raikage demanded his head. Hiyashi's twin brother, Hizashi, went in her dad's place instead. When her aunt heard about it, she was pregnant and she went into such a deep depression that she and the baby died during childbirth, leaving her cousin Neji an orphan. Ever since then, Neji has hated Hinata. Since she got kidnapped, Neji suffered and lost everything. Could she help the people who turned her cousin's life into a living hell? For Kiba, it was also hard. His dad, Kaiza Inuzuka, was one of the hundreds of ninja who died in the Third Shinobi War at the hands of Iwagakure no Sato. Kaiza and the rest of his team were waiting for the yellow flash of Konoha to get to their position to help them. When the yellow flash didn't get there in enough time, Kaiza gave his life to kill 10 of the enemy ninja there. It was thanks to his dad that they held out for so long. When he heard of stories about his dad from his mom and sister, it made him angry about the fact that he didn't get the chance to know his dad. Over time, he directed that anger towards Iwagakure. Seeing their inner conflict, Naruto said, "Guys, listen to me. I see what you guys are going through. To be honest, I can't relate. Not one bit. My mom and dad all died in the Kyuubi attack. But I checked my last name, and it turns out that there was an entire clan of Uzumakis in Whirlpool Country." Looking at Naruto, Kiba said, "Whirlpool Country was one of the lands between Iwagakure and Kumogakure." Hinata said, "When they went to war, they passed through Whirlpool Country to attack each other." Naruto said, "Yeah. Before the Third Shinobi War, the Land of Lighting and the Land of Earth were in a war. Most of the battles happened in Whirlpool. Those battles tore the country apart. When the people of the Land of Waterfall tried to expand their borders, they attacked Whirlpool Country in its time of weakness. The Uzumaki clan defended Whirlpool Country, but most of the clan was lost as a result. My mom, the heiress of the Uzumaki clan, was sent to Konoha to live out the rest of her life since our entire clan home was destroyed. Some of the greatest Uzumakis were my aunts and uncles. Even though I don't like the people of the land of Waterfall for what they did, I will defend them from Rito. To be a ranger, you don't have to like them. Whatever bad feelings you have about those lands, you need to put them aside. We're a part of something so much bigger than petty grudges. Hearing Naruto's words, the twosome thought them over. After a long time of thinking, Hinata said, "You're right, Naruto-kun. Regardless of what they did, they need help now. I'm not gonna turn my back on them." Kiba said, "Neither will I. Part of being a man is helping others in need. If I back out of this just because of what happened during a war, I'll be no better than those I hate. And killing, we're ninja. In the academy we were told to expect to kill. That's not a problem." The crane spirit said, "You will have to keep our secret unless we say it is alright to tell others. We can't have everyone trying to take our power for their own." Kiba said, "That's okay with me. It sounds like being ninja, except we're committing to something a lot bigger than just a village. If these guys are as bad as you say, someone has to stand up to them, and I would be damned before I let them just take over without a fight." Hinata said, "Agreed." Naruto said, "Well, it seems like you guys all agree." Takesere said, "Okay, now that you have given us your answer, I welcome you into the legacy of the Power Rangers." With that, the wolf and the crane disappeared in blue and pink balls of light. The balls of light then started moving to Kiba and Hinata, until they entered into their minds. Hinata and Kiba got a glossed and spacey overlook on their eyes. After a minute, they snapped back to sense, and the wolf and crane appeared. The wolf said, "Kiba Inuzuka, you have heart, courage, loyalty, and a sense to stand up in what you believe in. You have all of the qualities that I looked for in my apprentice. I hereby pass on the power of the Blue Wolf Ninjetti Ranger to you." Wolf went up in another flash of blue light and descended on Kiba. When the wolf got closer to Kiba, they both went up in a flash of blue light. When the light cleared, there was Kiba, but he was standing in a blue suit, similar to Naruto's white ninja form suit. On his chest, he had a gold emblem of a wolf prowling through the forest. Also, Akamaru, who was standing beside him, was encased in a form-fitting dark blue suit like Kiba's, and he had a black dog collar with a golden coin hanging off of it. On the coin was the same emblem that was on Kiba's chest. Kiba grew to be 5 feet 10 inches. Akamaru also grew a lot larger. Akamaru was 5 feet long, not including his tail. When he was standing on his legs at full height, he reached 3 feet tall. Akamaru went from a regular house puppy to a menacing attack dog. The crane started speaking after the light died down. "Hinata Hyuga. You are loving, caring, graceful, and compassionate. You have many of the qualities I look for in an apprentice. I'm honored to pass on the power of the pink crane Ninjetti Ranger to you." The crane disappeared into a ball of light and descended upon Hinata, putting her in the same suit as Kiba's, except pink. Her emblem was of a crane flying over a lake. She also grew to be 5 foot 8 inches. The dragon then said, "You three were chosen to be the acolytes of the great spirits of the Ninjetti. You are now the newest branch of the Power Rangers." The dragon was interrupted by an alarm going off. The screen behind the animal spirits turned on. It showed a monster walking through Konoha, blasting houses. It had on a red, white and blue striped shirt with a red beret, a blue paint stick, and a paint disc. The dragon said, "Well, I see no better test of your powers than with a monster attack. Go now, and may the power protect you all." Naruto came back from training with some brand new skills. He got into a fight with some Tenga warriors and chose Hinata and Kiba as 2 of the other Ninjetti warriors. Hinata and Kiba had their lives shown by everyone and passed the test for becoming the new Pink Crane and Blue Wolf Ninjetti Rangers. As they were celebrating, a monster attacked the village. Now the Rangers have been deployed to stop this menace. Now, after the dragon's speech, the falcon, the crane, and the wolf spirits used their powers to transport the Rangers to Gwinnett. Hinata, Naruto, and Kiba disappeared in flashes of pink, white, and blue respectively. They were flying through outer space at the speed of light, 186,000 kilometers per second, going to Gwinnett to stop that monster from destroying their home. 3 minutes and 33,480,000 kilometers later, they arrived at Konohagakure no Sato, seeing the monster destroying some of the buildings. Naruto told the others, "Follow my lead," and ran silently to the monster. They hopped on top of a building not far from him, and then Naruto jumped off of it with a flying side kick aimed at the monster. He hit the monster in the back, making it stumble forward. The monster turned around, only to catch two flying punches from Kiba and Hinata. Kiba and Hinata just landed, side by side. Naruto ran forward and did a flip off the ground, landing on Hinata's right and Kiba's left shoulder, and flipping off in a split second, sending a flying dropkick at the beast. Naruto landed and smirked, though you couldn't see it behind the mask. Hinata and Kiba ran up to the side of him. Kiba hit him in his shoulder hard, saying, "Damn, could you warn us before you do something like that? You weigh a ton." Naruto said, "I could, but it wouldn't have looked cool. Anyway, let's kick these monsters' butts quickly." Hinata just nodded her head in agreement. The monster recovered from the kick, and said, "You idiots. Did you think that hurt me? I am the mighty artist mole?" Kiba said, "Bullshit. I'll clean your clock right now, we can take you on easy." Artist Mole smirked and said, "To take me on, first you have to get through the pawns. Tengus, attack." With his yell, Tengus popped out of the ground in a burst of black feathers. Naruto looked at Hinata, then Kiba and said, "Don't worry. We can take him. Before there were 25, this time there's 21, and you guys have the power. We can beat them. Each one of us takes 7 of them." Kiba said, "Damn straight." Hinata just nodded. Naruto said, "All right, here's the first test of our power. Ninjetti warriors, charge." With that, all 3 of them charged forward, going at it with the Tenga. With Hinata, Hinata charged forward, but was still worried. She was a good fighter, no doubt about that, but she just didn't have it in her to hurt someone. She knew that taking this power was stupid, but she knew that they threw the first punch, and she had to strike back, because more than her reputation was on the line. So with that, Hinata started to quell her inhibitions and concentrate on the fight. The time for pacifism was over the second they invaded her home. Hinata charged forward, dodging a punch from one of the Tenga, and then dodging a kick from another. She parried a punch from another Tenga and punched it in the chest. She then ducked under a kick from another Tenga and swept his leg from under it. She got back up to catch a punch from another Tenga, and then whacked the Tenga in the face. She then grabbed it and tossed it into another. She looked at her hands, amazed, and said, "This power is awesome." She looked at the Tenga, charging them again, ready to bash their heads in. With Kiba and Akamaru charged the monsters on all 4s. When Kiba was close to the Tenga, he jumped up over their heads and landed behind them. Akamaru though just came and bashed through them, knocking one down. Kiba then charged them while they were turning and let out a right hook. He then pivoted on his right foot and the Tenga on his left was smashed in the face with a devastating heel kick. Kiba jumped over a punch that a Tenga aimed at him. When the Tenga looked in the air, it was bashed in its chest by Akamaru. Kiba came down with a left punch to the top of the Tenga's head. Kiba said, "Come on, this is too easy." He dodged a Tenga's punch and grabbed his arm, while sweeping his feet out from under him. Kiba started running around, dragging the Tenga with him. He completed 3 laps around the Tenga group, and then threw the Tenga he was holding at the other ones. He widened his eyes, saying, "This power is sweet." Kiba jumped up in triumph and started fighting again. With Naruto ran at the Tenga and jumped over their heads, like Kiba. He landed behind them, and started fighting them. He charged them, sending out a left roundhouse kick at the closest one that missed. Then using the momentum to get out a right heel kick, he was able to connect with the Tenga. Naruto then kicked out to the Tenga in his face, then back punched the one behind him. He ducked under a kick, then dodged 2 punches by other Tenga, then caught a 3rd punch. He then pushed the hand up, crouched down a little, and landed 2 punches to the Tenga's gut with lightning speed. Naruto got back up, only to barely dodge a punch by the Tenga. Naruto sent a left punch to the Tenga, and grabbed his arm and threw the Tenga behind him. Naruto back flipped over a sweep by the Tenga and jumped away. He then charged them, while they were charging him. Naruto ran at them, and then started flying low to the ground. He then pulled up as soon as the Tenga were close. He grabbed one by their shoulders and hoisted them up into the air. When he got 100 feet into the air, Naruto started twisting in the air, gaining speed as he did. He then threw the Tenga to the ground. The thrown Tenga collided with the Tenga on the floor and they all fell over. Naruto smirked behind his mask, but it was short-lived as he was hit from behind by something. Naruto let loose a scream of pain as the attack hit him, and he started falling out of the sky. When he collided with the ground, Naruto barely avoided a life-threatening injury. With Kiba was on a roll. The ranger powers had increased his up to 5-fold. He could feel the power coursing through every vein on his body, making it easy to destroy the Tenga warriors. He was handling them easily. He had just blocked a punch from a Tenga when Naruto dropped out of the sky. His eyes widened and he punched the Tenga in the face, and Akamaru jumped up and kicked it in the head, making it fall over. He and Akamaru then ran towards Naruto, getting to him as he landed on the ground. Kiba stopped by Naruto, trying to help him up. When he tried though, all Naruto did was groan. Kiba got up and was about to call for Hinata when he was hit in the back with a fireball. He kneeled down from the pain, and looked behind to see that Naruto's 7 Tenga warriors were back up and joined his 7. Kiba got up and went wild on the Tenga. He punched one in the chest 3 times, and then rolled over its back to kick another Tenga. He punched 2 on his left and right, and then jumped over a sweep. He landed and was kicked by a Tenga. He was ganged up by them. With Hinata was doing well. She was on the winning side of her fight with the Tenga when she saw Naruto fall out of the sky. She wanted to go, but trouble in the form of 7 Tenga appeared in front of her. She started fighting harder and moving faster, so she could get to Naruto quicker. She started fighting even harder when she saw that Kiba was being beaten. She forced herself to beat the Tenga, but they wouldn't fall. Hinata stayed fighting her Tenga until she started getting winded. Her moves were getting sluggish and the Tenga started hitting her back more. She was on the bad side of a 7-on-1 jumping. With Naruto, after a few minutes, Naruto felt good enough to stand up. The attack to his back still hurt, but his ninja suit wasn't damaged in the least. He looked over to where he thought he saw the blast come from to see that artist mole was standing there, smug-like. He glared at him, realizing that the paint must have done it. Naruto got back up after a while, and saw that Kiba and Hinata were being defeated. Kiba was grabbed and hoisted over the Tenga's heads and was thrown close to Naruto. He saw the other Tenga do the same to Hinata. Kiba and Hinata got up and looked at the Tenga. Naruto said, "They're trying to get us into a single spot so they can kill us easier." Hinata worriedly said, "What do we do?" Naruto said, "This." Naruto crossed his forearms over the insignia in his chest again. The light gathered yet again, and yelled Ninjetti. He then said, "Falcon Spirit, Ranger form." All of a sudden, lightning came from Naruto's wrist guards. He crossed his arms in front of him, and then threw them at his sides. A trail of lightning was left, and then it formed a circle around him. The circle then split into 2 identical circles, both around his midsection, one on top of the other. The rings then moved outward. The lower one moved toward his feet and the upper one moved toward his head. As it was moving, his ranger form started replacing his ninja form. After the rings reached their destination, they disappeared, their job of morphing Naruto into ranger form complete. Naruto said, "That's how you do it, now you." With that, Kiba and Hinata did the same hand motions as Naruto and said, "Ninjetti, Wolf Spirit, Crane Spirit, Ranger form." The same thing happened to them, except the lightning, the ring, and the plate of energy were blue and pink respectively. When it ended, Kiba was in a blue spandex suit. He had 3 white diamonds in it on his chest, and in the middle one was the golden crest of the wolf. He had on white gloves that went up to mid-forearm and white boots that went up to mid-shin. He had blue diamonds on them. He also had on a helmet. On the helmet was a gray mouthpiece shaped like lips, a white triangular area with red eye-like markings and a blue design that was supposed to be a nose. He also had white ears sticking out from his helmet, and his visor was black. The helmet altogether looked like a wolf with its mouth open. Akamaru let loose a loud howl as he was covered in a blue light. When the light died down, Akamaru was roughly the same size. His teeth were bigger and sharper than before, and it looked like his body was ripped with muscles. His body was covered with blue armor with the insignia of the wolf on his chest. On his head was a helmet, and attached to the helmet was a sharp horn that looked like it could skewer a human easily. Hinata's ranger suit was a pink variation of Kiba's, except she had a skirt on also. The helmet had small green eyes, a golden beak over the visor. When they ended, they were surprised over the power they had. They had felt nothing like this before. They felt like they could take the entire world on easily. Their power was surging throughout their body, and they felt more powerful than they ever had before. Naruto said, "Nice, isn't it?" Hinata and Kiba said, "Yeah." Naruto said, "All right, now let's kill these bastards and get home. It's getting late." Kiba said, "That's true." Hinata just nodded. Naruto said, "Let's go," and they charged the Tenga with renewed strength. With Naruto charged the Tenga easily. He pulled out his sword and charged the Tenga. He brought his sword hand, right hand, up and then brought it down on the purple body vest of a Tenga, crouching down to add speed and power to the slash. He then turned to his right, holding the sword out. While crouching and twisting, the sword cut yet another Tenga. Naruto stood back to his full height and grabbed the hand of a Tenga on his left that was trying to punch him. He pulled the Tenga toward him, and side-stepped to the right, out of the way so the Tenga fell down. Without warning, Naruto jumped up, avoiding a fireball sent to him by a Tenga behind him. Naruto turned around in the air, and brought his sword down on the Tenga. "Hey Naruto," said the voice of Successor. "Try this move." Successor then sent a mental video to Naruto of the move he wanted him to try. Naruto then crouched down a little and swung the sword to his left shoulder and rested it there. Naruto focused chakra to his feet. He then jumped forward a great distance, swinging the sword outward and hitting the Tenga in front of him. The Tenga was sliced in two at the waist and blood flied out. Some landed on the sword, and some landed on Naruto's suit. Successor said, "Damn. Can't you go into one battle without getting blood on the suit?" Naruto ignored Successor's bitching and went back to attacking the Tenga. He started slicing up the Tenga left and right. He ducked under a punch, and then cut off the arm of that Tenga. He turned around in a circle, hitting all the Tenga around him. Naruto smirked and said, "This is so easy." With Kiba charged the Tenga on all fours. When he was 5 feet from them, he jumped forward. He extended the claws on his suit and brought them down on the armor of the Tenga in front of him. The Tenga's armor was immediately cut through. He got up and kicked that same Tenga in the chest. He ducked under a punch by a Tenga on his right, then swept its feet out from under it. He rolled back to avoid a kick from a Tenga on his left, and then got up. He jumped forward, turned to his left, and let out a kick with his left leg. The Tenga flew back 5 feet and started rolling away. He then heard a voice in his head say, "Call on the wolf lance." Kiba was confused where the voice was coming from until he remembered where he heard it before. Ukamisere. Ukamisere said, "No, it's the fucking Tooth Fairy. Who the hell do you think it is?" Kiba dodged a punch from a Tenga as he replied to Ukamisere, "What exactly is the wolf lance?" Kiba dodged 2 strikes from the Tenga, then kicked one away as he jumped away from them to give himself some room to fight. Kiba yelled out, "Wolf lance," and a dot of blue light appeared in front of Kiba. The dot started to expand and widen until it was a long, thin tube. When the light died down, a dark blue lance was hovering in the air. It had 3 prongs on each end, and a small horizontal line going through the middle of the lance. As Kiba grabbed it, he thought, "I just hit the jackpot." Kiba followed his instincts and charged the Tenga with Akamaru beside him. All of a sudden, Akamaru raced ahead of him and dashed towards the nearest Tenga. Akamaru jumped at the Tenga and used that horn of his to impale the Tenga. Akamaru then stood on his hind legs and used his front ones to push the Tenga on his horn off of it. Akamaru then twisted around and hit the Tenga to his side. Hearing one of the Tenga behind him try to hit him, Akamaru shifted his weight to his front legs, and kicked out with his back legs, hitting the Tenga in its thigh and forcing it to its knees. Kiba was also mauling through them. He was holding the lance horizontally when a Tenga came up on his left. Kiba turned left, using the momentum to add to the power of his strike. When he heard one Tenga coming up behind him, Kiba ducked down and jutted the lance backwards. The lance struck the Tenga's leg and got stuck in there. Kiba let go of the lance and clipped the Tenga, causing it to fall on its back. When it fell, Kiba planted his foot on the Tenga's chest and yanked out his lance. Kiba stood back up and pulled the lance over his head. He grabbed the lance close to one of the ends, having the other end hang lazily behind him. He took a step forward, swinging the lance and hitting the ground. When he did, 2, 5, and 7 feet in front of him, a blast of blue lightning blew out of the ground, hitting the tenga in front of him. Before Kiba could get a proper grip on his lance, a tenga came up from behind and tackled Kiba to the ground. Before it could do anything though, Akamaru came up from behind it and impaled it with his horn. Kiba got back up to his feet and petted Akamaru on the head and muttered, "Good day wolf." Akamaru barked in happiness, while Kiba muttered to himself, "I said it before, and I'll say it again. This power is sweet." With Hinata charged the tenga with a renewed spirit. She jumped over the tenga in front of her and landed in the middle. She sent a right punch to the tenga in front of her, then a left back kick to the one behind. She ducked under the punches from another tenga. She then turned around and swept the tenga's feet out from under it. She stood up and dodged a punch from another tenga on her right. She jumped up and twisted in the air to the right, kicking the tenga that tried to punch her. She kicked another tenga behind her and jumped away. She heard a voice in her head say, "Hinata, call on the power of the crane bow." Hinata heard the voice of the crane spirit and decided to listen to her and said out loud, "Crane bow." And out came a bow. It was pink, with the head of a crane on the far end, opposite the string. The crane head had green eyes and the rods looked like wings. It had a string connecting the two ends that was tight as a harp string. Hinata was about to use it, but was confused. She thought to herself, hoping the crane spirit could hear her, "There aren't any arrows to shoot." Kijukasere said back, "Don't worry. Just shoot it like there is one. Trust me, it'll work." Hinata replied back, "But I never used a bow before." Kijukasere said back, "Trust in the power of the Ninjetti." Hinata, realizing what she was saying, just nodded her head and looked forward at the tenga. When one came forward, Hinata put the bow in her left hand. She grabbed the string in her right hand with her index and middle fingers on one side of the string, her thumb on the other, like there was an arrow in it. She then let the string go. She felt the bow suck away a small part of her energy, and a light came out of the bow in the form of an arrow. The arrow of light flew forward and hit the tenga square in the chest. Hinata stared wide-eyed at what happened. The bow draws on her own energy to do attacks. Hinata smirked behind her mask and started shooting at the tenga as they came forward. She started charging them while shooting. She purposely missed some shots to scare the tenga. When she was close to the tenga, Hinata jumped, flipped and drop-kicked the front one. She ducked under a punch from a tenga on her left, then swept its feet from under it. She readied her bow and let it fire close range at the tenga behind the one she swept. She jumped forward, barely dodging a kick from a tenga behind her. She flipped around so she was upside down and shot two of the tenga before she had to complete the flip to land safely. Hinata then turned around and shot another tenga. With Naruto was demolishing his tenga. With his skills, he was easily hacking through the avian terrors of his world. Eventually, Naruto reduced their numbers to just 3, all of which were circling him. One of them had the balls to strike first. Well, balls or lack of brains. Naruto ducked under his punch and punched the tenga in the chest with his left hand. His right hand handled the sword, which he swung and cut off the tenga's arm. Naruto then kicked the tenga in the chin with all of his power, making it rise off the ground. He then turned in a full circle and kicked the tenga in its chest, knocking it back. While it was in the air, Naruto shot off a crescent of energy to destroy the tenga. The other two shot fireballs at him from behind the Ninjetti warrior, but he was able to flip over them. Naruto turned around and charged the tenga while dodging their attacks. Eventually, Naruto got close enough to cut off their heads. Naruto then turned to face Artist Mole. With Kiba's luck with the tenga mirrored Naruto's. With Akamaru's help, he was able to lower the tenga's numbers. He ducked under a kick from one tenga and twisted his lance around to sweep its feet from under it. He turned clockwise and hit a tenga on his left, then the one on his right. He bent backwards to dodge a fireball shot by a tenga, then came back up, with his right fist impacting against the tenga's face. "Hey Runt, try this out," came the voice of Ukamisere. He sent a mental video to Kiba that showed the move he wanted him to do. Kiba muttered, "Sugoi," and held the wolf lance horizontally in front of him. He pulled the lance down, and brought his knee up to hit the lance on the white line, breaking the wolf lance into 2 symmetrical pieces. Kiba flipped the lance parts around to hold them uprightly, and then pumped them with chakra, causing them to spark with blue electricity. Kiba pulled his hands back, and then threw the halves towards the tenga. The recovering Tenga were all eviscerated by Kiba's new technique. At 20 feet, the lance halves turned around and returned to Kiba like boomerangs. Kiba caught the lance halves and reconnected them. Kiba turned around to see that Akamaru was pushing the last Tenga off his horn. Looking towards the team leader, he saw that Naruto was finishing up with his Tenga, so he ran to join him. With Hinata, Hinata was just finishing up her Tenga also. She shot another energy arrow at another Tenga, hitting him in his leg so he wouldn't move. That was the fourth Tenga she got that way. Since there was a less of a chance of her missing, Hinata then shot an energy arrow at their heads, killing them. She then rolled forward, barely missing a fireball shot by a Tenga. She saw another one incoming and shot it. She saw that it cancelled the fireball out. She saw another Tenga charging up another fireball. She pulled back and shot as soon as the Tenga let its fireball go. She shot a second unseen arrow behind the first one though. The first one cancelled out the fireball. The second went through the small amount of smoke into the Tenga's mouth, killing it. She looked over to Kiba and Naruto to see Kiba finished and Naruto almost finished. She quickly took out the Tenga and joined her team. As Naruto finished his Tenga, Kiba and Hinata came to join him. They looked toward Artist Mole to see him shocked. They could tell by the look on his face that he never expected them to finish the Tenga. Naruto spoke up and said, "And then there was one. Now come on, Artist Mole. I want to end this before sundown." What they didn't see was that there were many ninja watching this battle from a small distance. Among them were Kurenai, Kakashi, Asuma, and Guy. While the Rangers were fighting, Kakashi said, "Guys, we have to do something. Just standing here, we're not protecting our village at all." Asuma said, "Why, Kakashi? The fighters are doing well. Look at the blue one. Those small claws on his hands just impaled that hawk monster. They're doing great." Kurenai jumped in on Asuma's side. She said, "It's just like the white one said earlier today when he helped us. If we jumped in the battle, we would just become liabilities. Just let them handle it, Kakashi. They're doing great." Kakashi said, "This is our home. The villagers look to us to defend it." A voice came from behind Kakashi, saying, "That is true, Kakashi." The four Junin turned around to see the Hokage there. He said, "This is our home. The villagers do look to us to defend it. But they are defenders of our home too. This is their battle. And unless they are in serious need of it, no one jump in. That's an order." Guy said, "Are you sure about this, Hokage-sama? What if we don't jump in time?" The Hokage chuckled a little and said, "I wouldn't worry about that, Guy. I don't even think they'll need our help. They can do this by themselves." Artist Mole said, "You may have been able to defeat the Tenga, but you'll never stop me." Kiba confidently said, "Yeah, well, we'll see about that." Artist Mole said, "No, you won't. Yellow paint." The Rangers waited a moment, but nothing happened. Hinata said, "Ooh, you didn't do anything." Artist Mole smirked and said, "Yes, I did. Look down, or at least you can try." The Rangers tried to look down, but couldn't. They couldn't move their heads. Naruto tried moving his legs, but no go. Kiba tried his arms, nothing. Hinata tried to move, but it still didn't work. Artist Mole laughed and said, "That's the beauty of my art. Each color has a different special ability. You just figured out that yellow has the power of paralysis. Say goodbye, Rangers." Artist Mole dipped his paintbrush into the palette of colors he had, then said, "Red paint," and slashed his paintbrush. A red crescent of energy came out and soared towards the Rangers. The Rangers tried to block, but couldn't move a muscle. The paint hit them immediately and they were blasted away. They were all flung in different directions. They all landed and felt the pain, but couldn't move a muscle. Naruto saw Artist Mole look at him and laugh. He then said, "I think I'll kill your fearless leader while I make you two watch." Hinata and Kiba then yelled out, "No," in protest. Artist Mole said, "Cry all you want, it'll do you no good." He turned Naruto's way and smirked. Naruto looked at him and struggled to make his lips move. The paralysis spread to where he could barely move his body muscles. If it went any further, the muscles used to help him breathe would stop operating, making it so that he would suffocate. He struggled to move his lips and struggled, but was able to say, "SSS slice them to RR ribbons, ta ta to kesere." With that, the sword in his hand shattered into 1,000 little white and gold pieces. They circled around Artist Mole like a tornado, cutting him up with every second. The blades then started getting faster and faster, eventually cutting up Artist Mole. Green blood started oozing out of his body as the blades hit. On the sidelines, the ninja watching were impressed. Blades that small doing that much damage. The Rangers knew how to use their powers to their fullest. While the vortex was going, the Hokage turned to Kakashi and said, "Kakashi-san, I believe that Konohagakure's new protectors could use a little assistance in getting that paint off of them." Kakashi completed the hand seals and said, "Way ahead of you, Hokage-sama." Water style. Great Waterfall Jutsu. He sent the Great Waterfall Jutsu at the Rangers, but seriously downgraded the power. The water washed over the Rangers, wiping off the paint from Artist Mole's attacks. The Rangers felt power return to their limbs and they stood up. They looked over to the origin of the waves to see the Junin force standing there, watching the fight. Naruto said, "Thanks," and ended the vortex of blades surrounding Artist Mole. The blades came back and formed his sword again. He said, "Ninjetti warriors, attack." They let out a battle cry as they charged Artist Mole, pulling out their weapons. Naruto went forward with a forward slash at Artist Mole, which missed. Artist Mole jumped to the left, only to be hit by Kiba's strike from his lance. Artist Mole wobbled back in pain, only to be shot by Hinata's bow. She shot 3 in a row, all 3 hitting her mark. Naruto and Kiba charged forward, Naruto horizontally cutting Artist Mole and kneeling down a little. Artist Mole stumbled back in pain. Kiba ran up from behind Naruto and jumped off his back. He flipped in midair and brought his lance down like an axe. It connected with the top of Artist Mole's head. Hinata came forward and jumped over both Naruto and Kiba, firing shots at Artist Mole. Artist Mole looked in anger at the preteens. He said, "Enough playing, let's get serious." Artist Mole charged forward, waving his paintbrush like a staff. Kiba said, "This one's mine," and ran up to meet Artist Mole. Kiba pulled his staff back and swung it forward at Artist Mole's head. Artist Mole brought the brush head up to block and swung the bottom part of the brush into Kiba's midsection. The hit hurt, but Kiba didn't react to the pain. He swung the other side of his staff at Artist Mole's arm. It connected and Kiba used the top part to send a hit to Artist Mole's midsection. But Artist Mole jumped back to dodge the hit, and then jumped forward, swinging the brush in a horizontal strike at Kiba's head. Kiba bent backwards to dodge the brush, then came back up and swung the left end of his staff at Artist Mole's head, knocking him on his ass. Artist Mole rolled around and got up. He pulled the brush over his head and jumped at Kiba, bringing it down. Kiba put the lance horizontally and raised it up to meet the strike. So strong was the thing on Kiba's mind since the attack was really hard to block. While he was holding the lance, the wolf spirit said something to him in his head. "Runt, put your hands on both sides of the white bar on the lance. Split it in 2, then attack Picasso." Kiba said, "I got it, thank you." Artist Mole started putting more pressure on the staff. Kiba felt the staff start to bend more. Kiba thought to himself, "Here it comes." As the staff broke in 2, Kiba rolled away to his left and charged more chakra into his lance halves, coating them in electricity. He popped up and jumped toward Artist Mole, hitting him in his head with the right and the chest with the left. Kiba then jumped at him with the lance pieces held on the sides of his head in an X shape. He brought them down on Artist Mole, doing more damage. Unseen to Kiba, Artist Mole dipped the top part of the brush into the red paint. Kiba then ran forward and swung at Artist Mole with his right lance piece, but Artist Mole ducked under it. Artist Mole then sent the paintbrush head into Kiba's chest, while yelling, "Red paint." The power of the red paint just reinforced the power of the strike, sending Kiba flying back. Kiba landed some way away from the other Rangers. Hinata ran over to see if he was all right, while Naruto just glared and ran at Artist Mole. He put his sword into a striking stance while running. When he was in front of Artist Mole, he suddenly stopped and jumped up. He pulled his sword above his head and brought it down with all of his force behind it. Artist Mole put his paintbrush into a horizontal defense stance and was able to successfully block the attack. When he landed, Naruto kicked Artist Mole in the chest, then jumped forward and sliced him through his midsection. He turned around, only to catch a splatter of blue paint in his mask. He knew what was coming next. He didn't know the effects of the blue paint, but knew that they weren't good. He focused chakra into his blade, and slashed the air as a white crescent of energy blasted Artist Mole. Naruto just kept blasting Artist Mole with them, but Artist Mole was able to dodge one and yelled out, "Blue paint." Naruto looked at himself to see that he had a blue aura around him. Naruto groaned and thought to himself, "This cannot be good." He looked at Artist Mole's smiling face and glared. He started charging at Artist Mole, but found himself moving really slowly. He said out loud, "What's happening to me?" Artist Mole chuckled evilly and said, "That, you little brat, is the power of my blue paint. It slows down your muscles so you can barely move. It's surprising that you can move that fast." Artist Mole chuckled again and dipped his paintbrush into the red paint again. He started firing off blasts at Naruto. While blasting Naruto, he was laughing hysterically, yelling, "Payback's a bitch, ain't she?" Hinata was on the sidelines watching the battle when she saw Naruto being blasted. She wanted to do something, but with that blue paint, Naruto was a goner. She looked at Artist Mole and sneered. She then looked at his paint wheel and saw that the red glowed every time he used the red paint's power. She also saw that the blue part was always glowing. She thought to herself, maybe that's the key. Hinata pulled her bow up and took aim. She pulled back on the string and lined the crane head up with Artist Mole's paint palette. She then let the string go, the energy arrow flying forward and finally hitting Artist Mole's palette. The palette shattered from the blow, releasing Naruto from the barrage of blasts and from the blue paint power. Artist Mole looked over to where the arrow came from to see Hinata standing there. Hinata then sarcastically said, "Oops. I broke your paint wheel, my bad." Artist Mole glared in her direction, but it didn't last long, since he was kicked by Naruto. Naruto said, "Your history. Guys, let's finish this." Kiba and Hinata went forward, standing by Naruto. Naruto glared and charged forward, with Kiba right behind him. Naruto focused chakra to the edge of his sword, making it blazing hot. He stopped in front of Artist Mole, and jumped up again. He brought his sword down with all of his weight. Artist Mole brought his paintbrush up and blocked the hit. Naruto smirked and let the charged-up blast go at point-blank range. The spot where the paintbrush and the sword edge met was covered with white light. The light expanded, making a wall between Artist Mole and Naruto. Naruto detonated the blast, blowing him back and making Artist Mole skid along the ground. Kiba came immediately after. He ran forward and did the same attack as Naruto, and focused his energy into the side of the lance that hit the paintbrush. The lance hit exactly where Naruto's blade hit. It started making cracks into the paintbrush, though Artist Mole didn't pay attention. Kiba was soon kicked in the chest by Artist Mole and fell back, giving Hinata a clear shot. Hinata took that as her cue and shot 3 energy arrows off at Artist Mole's brush. It went at the exact point where Naruto and Kiba hit. The arrows eventually broke the brush, leaving Artist Mole defenseless. Artist Mole said, "I can still kill you 3 brats myself." The 3 rangers regrouped and Naruto scoffed at Artist Mole's words. He said, "With all your Tengus, your paint, and paintbrush you couldn't defeat us. You think you can defeat us yourself?" Kiba joined in and said, "You must be smoking something." Hinata smirked under her helmet and said, "Face it, you're through." Hinata aimed her bow at Artist Mole, but stopped once Kiba broke his wolf lance in half, charged one to the brim with power, and gave it to her. He said, "Shoot that instead." Naruto looked at Artist Mole and charged forward. As he was charging, he said, "You're right, Artist Mole. Payback is a bitch." He charged another blast to his sword, but didn't let it go. Naruto ran up to Artist Mole and kicked him in the chest. He then slashed through Artist Mole with his empowered sword, stunning Artist Mole. Naruto ran behind Artist Mole and said, "And I'm her pimp. Now." Hinata took that time to shoot Kiba's lance. The lance part was then surrounded by a pink and blue aura as it flew toward Artist Mole. Naruto charged his sword with chakra to the brim, and then let the blast go at Artist Mole. Both blasts connected at the same time, with the lance hitting Artist Mole's chest and Naruto's attack hitting Artist Mole in the back. The attacks were so powerful that Artist Mole had nowhere to go. The pressure of being in between the 2 powers eventually overwhelmed Artist Mole and both attacks destroyed him. He went out in a huge explosion that kicked up a smokescreen. When the smoke cleared, there was a 1-foot-deep crater with a part of Kiba's lance in it. Naruto picked up the lance piece and walked toward his friends. He said, "Our first mission is complete. Come on guys, let's go." The animal spirits were about to transport the rangers home, but they were interrupted by the Hokage Sarutobi. He said, "Wait. I want to thank you three. You have put your lives on the line to save our city. Not for money, or fame, or any other selfish reason. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart." Naruto said, "Thank you Hokage-sama. It's an honor. Now if you excuse us, we gotta go now. We got an entire world to protect." Sarutobi said, "Oh, then don't let me stop you." Naruto then muttered, "I'll talk to you later, old man." Naruto walked back toward his friends. He gave them the go-ahead and they all transported to Gamma 4. "You have to concentrate, Naruto. I know you can do this." "Whatever. Just restart the program." That was the sound coming from one of the many training rooms in the command center of the Ninjetti Rangers. Rito wasn't attacking anywhere, so the animal spirits chose that time to train the Rangers in their new powers a little. Naruto and Takesere were in one of the training rooms. Takesere was teaching Naruto better swordsmanship. When he got the power of the White Falcon, sword skills were downloaded into his brain cells. But those skills were only basics. Takesere was teaching him more. The first move Naruto learned was a move called Streak. Naruto would rest the sword on his shoulder, then focus chakra into his legs. He would then jump an amazing distance at a fast speed and bring the sword around, hitting the opponent. Naruto first used this move in the battle against Artistmol. Now Naruto was learning to do it better. The training room they were in was also a virtual reality room. It created things like it was a program. Takesere wrote a program that imitated a Tenga attack on Konoha. The program was spot on. It really looked like Konoha. But the Tenga attacks hurt just as much as they did in real life too. And the only way to get rid of the Tengas was to kill them using the Streak attack. The program also made the Tenga come at random. It was to test Naruto's effectiveness with Streak. If he didn't charge it enough, he wouldn't make it to his opponent. If he charged it too much, he would fly too fast and too far from his opponent to hit anything. Naruto was walking through virtual Konoha in his ranger form. There were many people going around too. While Naruto was walking, he was hit from behind with a fireball. Naruto didn't even have to turn around to see who did it. When he turned around, there were 3 Tenga there. The Tenga fired their fireballs at Naruto, who jumped over them. When he landed, he immediately charged chakra into his legs. He let it go and let out a perfect streak. He hit the Tenga in the middle. The Tenga started vibrating, then disappeared. The other 2 were smart enough to jump away. When Naruto landed, he was immediately fired upon by the Tenga. Right before the attacks hit, Naruto focused chakra into his legs. He then jumped backwards. With the built-up chakra, he jumped a lot faster and further than he normally would. The fireballs hit each other where Naruto was not even a split second ago. Naruto then ran toward the next Tenga. When the Tenga fired a fireball, Naruto held his sword out to take the attack. He balanced the attack on his sword and stopped the forward motion of it. When the other Tenga fired a fireball, Naruto swatted the stopped fireball toward the incoming fireball and neutralized it. Naruto then charged chakra in his legs for a streak. This time he put the right amount in it and killed the Tenga. The last one was easy pickings. He pulled off another streak and Takesere ended the program. The virtual city collapsed and turned into a white hemisphere-shaped room with a window close to the top. In the window appeared Takesere in his human form. Takesere said, "That was good, Naruto. You got streak down easily. Now, we'll increase the number and strength of the Tenga." Naruto said, I know. In reality, Naruto didn't know. He just said he did so he can kill more Tenga. The window Takesere appeared in started fading away, as the virtual Konoha reset itself. When the virtual world reset itself, Naruto didn't hear anything, or see anything. Naruto knew that was a sign of danger. He started walking forward cautiously. While he was walking forward, he heard faint footsteps. He knew they were by him somewhere. Now to figure out where. Naruto turned around and saw a Tenga on the rooftop to his left. That Tenga had a fully charged fireball in its mouth ready to fire. It did double the damage, but went at half the speed. Through experience, Naruto knew that he couldn't balance the attack on his sword, then deflected, so he jumped backwards out of the way. While in the air, he saw 3 more Tenga appear as if out of nowhere. He then thought to himself, it's a trap. They got me in the air because they knew that I can't dodge up here. The Tenga took their chance and shot endless fireballs at Naruto. Naruto tried his best to counter the fireballs with the Judgment Cut, blasting ability of his sword, but he couldn't get them all and some hit him. Naruto landed off balance, but was able to stand upright after a few seconds. He looked around to see the Tenga coming in on him. There were 10 in total. They had him backed by an alley and Naruto knew that it was do or die. He looked at the one right in his face. He focused chakra into his legs and dashed toward the Tenga, in the streak position. When he let the attack go, he was surprised to see that the attack didn't go through the Tenga's body armor. When Naruto landed, he looked back and realized that the Tenga was hurt, but not dead like he wanted it to be. Naruto saw one of the other Tenga shoot a fireball and he bent backwards, letting the sphere of fire go above him. He came back up, only to take a punch to the gut from another Tenga. Naruto looked around to see the other Tenga closing in on him. Naruto knew that if they closed in on him, he'd lose. Naruto focused chakra into his legs and executed another streak. He ended up hitting a lot of the Tenga, and was able to get out of the alley. He turned back to see the Tenga coming for him. He charged up energy in his sword and was about to execute the Judgment Cut attack, but then another thing came to mind. Naruto smirked behind his helmet and put his sword on his left shoulder, knees bent, ready to pull off a streak. When the Tenga charged forward, Naruto rocketed forward. While going forward, he swung the blade again. But this time, the sword was charged with extra energy that made the blade of the sword sharper and stronger. When he swung the blade, it gave off a white glow that severely damaged the enemy as he swung it. When it was finally over, Naruto saw the damage. 3 Tenga were completely destroyed, cut in half horizontally. Naruto's smirk grew wider and he looked at the other Tenga with an evil glint in his visor. 50 seconds later, the last Tenga's body was destroyed. Naruto stood there with the sword in his right hand, and the blood on his suit disappearing. As the Tenga's bodies were disappearing, Naruto fell over. He was leaning on his sword for balance. When the city disappeared, Takesere said, "That was good, Naruto. One mistake you made though. I was thinking you would fire a medium-powered Judgment Cut at their armor, weakening it for a regular streak to kill. What you did was smart, creative, improvisational, but also very energy-consuming. When you combine the Judgment Cut with the Falcon Sword Kenjutsu style, you unlocked the true power behind the Falcon Sword Kenjutsu style called Exceed. They do a lot more damage, but they also are very tiring. The Exceed attacks will most likely be your ace in the hole. But there will be some enemies that the power of the Falcon Sword won't be able to best alone. When you meet them, I hope that you're a lot stronger. In order for you to use the Exceed attacks on a regular basis in battle, you have to have at least 3 times your current chakra level." Naruto looked at Takesere and said, 3 times? That's crazy. Takesere said, "I know, but if you want to use the Exceed attacks like I know you'll use the regular attacks, you're gonna need a lot more energy. When you learn all the basic attacks, you'll understand what I mean. For now, let's move on. You seem to have streaked down perfectly. Now, I'll teach you another technique. It's called the high roller. Now, the high roller is different from the streak in that in order to do it, you have to hold your sword in an inverted grip. It's hard to switch from a regular grip to an inverted one so quickly in battle, so I advise you to use this move cautiously. If something goes wrong, it could mean not only your death, but the entire team's death." Naruto closed his eyes in agreement and said, "I know, sensei. Now let's try this move." Naruto tried and tried and tried, but he couldn't get the move down. In order to do it, you have to hold the blade in a weird way than you would usually hold it. Also, the power of it to knock your opponent in the air comes from you swinging it around the back, which is hard to do when you're being blasted at. That wasn't his ideal way of fighting, but he had to master that move. After a few hours of trying, Naruto was able to get the attack down. When he learned to do it, Takesere restarted the virtual Konoha program. As before, Naruto moved through the city, looking for the Tenga. This time, he got the drop on them. As the 5 Tenga moved forward to him, he waited until one got close. He switched the blade around and swung it up with all of his power. The Tenga went flying up in the air, Naruto jumping up with it. When he jumped up, he started slashing and stabbing the Tenga in a flurry of attacks. He then kicked the Tenga down to the ground, and charged up energy into his sword. He let the attack fly, yelling out, "Judgment Cut." The Judgment Cut went forward, hitting the Tenga right in the chest, making it break into two pieces and eventually disappear. The other Tenga also tried to attack them. Naruto waited until one came forward, then dodged the punch. He then cut the Tenga in the midsection and hit them with a high roller. As he jumped up, the other Tenga were shooting at him. Naruto grabbed their friend and used him as a Tenga shield to take the attacks. When he landed, he smashed the Tenga's head on the ground. He faced the other three Tenga, slicing a fireball in two as it came for him. He batted another one away, then ran forward at the Tenga. He charged up a judgment cut, and as he was 2 feet from the Tenga, he let it loose. The blast damaged all three Tenga, allowing Naruto to hit one with a high roller. He blocked a fireball from another one, and hit it with a high roller, and then hit the last one, ending the program. Successor said, Good Naruto. You're doing great. I knew that I chose right in letting you become my fighter. Anyway, let's take a little break for now. With Hinata, in another room in the command center, Hinata and Kijukasere, Crane Spirit, were in another room doing target practice. Hinata was morphed into her ranger form, with her crane bow out. Kijukasere was standing next to Hinata in her human form. Kijuki had brown eyes and hair. She was slender with a female athlete's body. Kijuki was giving Hinata tips about her shooting. Hinata was aiming at a target 20 feet in front of her. She concentrated energy into a point on her bow. Without warning, she let the energy arrow go with a light sound. The arrow went forward, piercing the cardboard target through the chest. When Kijuki saw the attack hit, she said, That was very good, Hinata. I think you're starting to get used to the crane bow. One thing though, I think you need to take your shot faster. As an archer, you're gonna be a long-range fighter. You're also not shooting at still targets. Most will be moving, and you have to take in everything you see with your eyes, aim for a shot, and shoot. You also have to do this very quickly, in case the window of opportunity you'll have will close. Also, another thing I noticed is that you didn't aim for the head. Why was that, Hinata? Hinata bit her lip behind her helmet. With Kijuki's and Naruto's help, her stuttering was starting to lessen, but wasn't completely gone. She said, I'm sorry sensei, but I couldn't bear the thought of killing another living being. I know that they'll kill to get what they want, but if I do that also, wouldn't that also make me as bad as them? Kijuki just looked at Hinata with a blank stare. Then, Kijuki suddenly started laughing. Hinata thought, what is she laughing about? After a while the laughter died down. When it did, Kijukasere said, A heart so pure. I can't believe one still exists in a world like this one. Hinata, killing is part of being a shinobi, and more importantly, a protector. You might not like it, but you'll have to kill your enemies. If you don't, they'll come back stronger, and with more reinforcements. Think of it this way. The Tenga and Rito's monsters kill because they want to kill people. You kill them to protect those who can't protect themselves. You fight for those who can't fight for themselves. Yes, killing is bad. But the only time you will kill is to protect, not to harm. Hinata heard the words Kijukasere said and held her head down. She took a deep breath and said, Sensei? Yes. Does it ever get easier? Hinata didn't need to say what it meant. They both knew she meant taking the life of another living thing. Kijuki said, No, it doesn't. And the fact that it doesn't is what makes you human. Hinata closed her eyes, blinking back the tears that were about to fall. She thought, thanks. Kijuki said, No problem, kiddo. Also, there's something else you need to do that is of dire importance. Hinata said, What? Kijuki said, You need to show your true strength. When I gave you the powers of the pink crane, I also looked through your memories. In those memories, I saw you hold back in almost everything you did. You didn't do your best on tests because you didn't want to make anyone jealous. You held back so others could feel good about themselves. You seriously need to stop doing that. Think about it. When you spar with your sister, you always hold back. Doing that could be seriously dangerous to her in the future. Hinata narrowed her eyes in confusion. How will not harming her sister now harm her in the future? She thought to Kijuki, How is that? You're a genin now. Let's say, when she becomes a genin, you will be a chunin and you two still spar. If you hold back, you'll be giving your sister a false sense of strength. You'll have her believing that she's strong enough to take on a chunin by herself, when she actually isn't. That train of thought could get your sister killed on a mission. When people spar, It's to figure out where their weaknesses are so that they can learn from them. In a spar, you're supposed to exploit the weaknesses of your opponent so they can notice and fix them. With you holding back, you're not giving your sister a correct assessment of her skills. As Kijuki went on, Hinata's eyes started getting bigger and bigger in shock and horror. What if she kept holding back on her sister? What if something like her sister's death were to happen because Hinata never showed her the flaws in her attacks? It would be all her fault. Yes, Hanabi is sort of a spoiled brat, but she is still Hinata's sister and she loved her. And the thought of her causing her sister's death was too much for her. She broke down crying on the spot. While she was crying, Kijukasere was saying soothing words to her, trying to calm her down. After a while, she was able to calm Hinata down. Hinata got up and took off her helmet, wiping her eyes from the tears she shed. After that, she said, "Thanks, sensei." Kijuki said, "No problem." Hinata said, "By the way, I found out from Kiba-kun that his spirit has the ability to speak all languages. Do you have one?" Kijuki laughed a little and said, "I was wondering when you would ask that. My ability is use of all elements." I said use of all elements. Not mastery. Now, let's get back to the matter at hand. I want to teach you 3 special attacks. You can only do these with your crane bow. Anyway, the first attack is the fire arrow. Before you shoot the arrow, think fire, and the arrow will be imbued with fire chakra. When the arrow hits something, it will explode, burning whatever it hits. You control how much chakra goes into the attack. The more fire chakra, the bigger the blast radius from the explosion and the more damage it does. Think you can handle that, kiddo? Hinata silently nodded. Kijuki said, "Great, now try it." Hinata pulled the crane bow up to position. She looked at the targets around her. She took aim, and just before firing, she thought, "Fire." She soon felt chakra leaving her and going into the crane bow. She saw the line she was holding take an orange glow. When she took the aim, she let the attack go. The energy arrow went forward, fast and swift. The arrow also had an orange glow. When it hit the target, the arrow exploded on impact. The radius covered the nearby dummies also, slowly burning them. Seeing that, Hinata got an idea of what to do with it. She did it again. This time, she charged up the energy a lot quicker and put a lot more in it. When she felt like she couldn't hold it anymore, she let the string go, releasing the attack. The attack went forward as fast as it usually did, but this time, when it exploded, the resulting explosion destroyed all of the dummies within 5 feet of the blast. Hinata smiled behind her helmet, but the smile instantly faded as she fell forward on all fours. She was breathing really heavily, as if she had just ran 100 miles. Kijukasere said, "Don't do that again. The more chakra you put in that blast, the less you have to defend yourself with. You probably put in all the chakra your body could handle into that blast. You're lucky you were in ranger form, where our energies are shared. These attacks are very risky, and you need to attack with better judgment. I do commend you for how much damage you did though." Hinata thought, "Thanks, now what's the next attack?" Kijukasere said, "Hold up kiddo, first I have to teach you a variant to the fire arrow called the blaze arrow. The blaze arrow acts like the fire arrow, but all the power is concentrated on a single enemy. It is very useful in taking down a single strong opponent. Try it. Think, blaze, when you attack, and the bow will do the rest." Hinata pulled her arrow and pulled back the string. She thought, blaze, and the string took a red glow. The attack went forward and hit one dummy. When it exploded, the dummy was incinerated on point. Hinata smiled again and said, "What's next?" Kijuki said, "I see that you're always on the move, huh kiddo? The next attack at the frost arrow. This attack, obviously freezes. If not, it will make your opponents move slower as their bodies try to compensate for the quick and sudden lack of heat the attack makes. Anyway, try it now. Think, frost, when you shoot, and the bow will do the rest." Hinata took her position and pulled on the string. She looked at the self-regenerating target dummies and thought, frost. The string started glowing ice blue as Hinata took aim. When she got it right, she let the string go, sending the ice blue energy arrow forward. It hit a dummy, exploding in an icy shockwave, covering the enemies caught in the blast with a thin sheet of ice. Kijuki said with praise, "Well done. Now Hinata, these ones are a little bit different. There's a variant to the frost arrow called the freeze arrow. The frost arrow is mainly for groups, while the freeze arrow is for one specific person. Instead of letting the blast go out, you focus it onto a single enemy. The blast will only affect that enemy, but will do more damage. Think, freeze, when you shoot, and I'll do the rest. Hinata immediately took aim, and thought, freeze, turning the string a deep blue. Hinata shot the arrow, hitting the target dummy and completely freezing him in a 5-inch thick sheet of ice. Hinata started jumping for joy, praising herself for getting the attack right. Kijuki said, nice, but don't get too cocky now. The next one is the electric arrow. This one electrocutes your enemy and those around him. It will also short-circuit nearby electric appliances. As with the fire and frost arrows, this has a single fighter variant. It's called the lightning arrow. The electric arrow can potentially stun, but the lightning arrow will definitely stun and could mess up the body's electric field and wiring. For example, it could make it so when you try to move your fingers, you move your toes instead. Hinata said, cool. Do I do it the same way as I do the other ones? Kijuki said, yay. Now do it. Hinata pulled the string back, thought, electric, and the arrow turned yellow. When Hinata shot it, there was no obvious damage except for some small burns. Hinata chalked it up to the idea that the electric arrow probably attacked the insides, like her Jukin. Hinata pulled the string back again, thinking, lightning. The string turned gold and Hinata let it go. The arrow got embedded in a target and exploded, causing bigger burns than the electric arrow. After Hinata shot the targets, Kijuki said, nice job. You're doing really great, Hinata. How about you take a little break and we'll continue training in a little bit. With Kiba was in another virtual reality room of the command center, fighting a group of simulated Tenga hand-to-hand. Ever since the first Tenga attack, Kiba had been training to become better at taijutsu. When the wolf spirit heard of what Kiba was trying to do, he agreed to help. They came to this room and they trained whenever they had free time. Wolf Spirit had Kiba wearing weights. Right now, they were at 20 pounds on each limb and 20 on the chest area. With these, Kiba would become faster and stronger. Whenever Kiba got used to the weights, Wolf Spirit would increase them without Kiba knowing. They originally started off at 1 pound, but whenever Kiba got used to them, Wolf Spirit would increase them by about a pound or 2. Now they were at 20 pounds each. Currently Kiba was demolishing the Tenga while the wolf spirit, Okamisere, was watching on the sidelines in his human form. In his human form, his hair was black with blue highlights. Wolf Spirit had taught Kiba a special move earlier called the Mega Claw. It was a deadly attack that coated his claws in chakra, extending their reach and making them able to tear through things much better than his regular claws could. He was currently using the Mega Claw and integrating it into his new style that he learned from the wolf called the Wolf Fang Fist style. Y'all knew I was gonna do this. It was a fast-paced close-range taijutsu style. Kiba was the fastest genin of the graduating class, so the style was perfect for him. Leaning back to dodge a fireball that was shot at him, Kiba came back up and jumped at the Tenga who attacked him. He charged up energy into his left hand. To be more specific, the claws on his hands. The claws gave off a white glow and extended to 3 times their original length. Kiba brought the claw around and slashed his opponent with them, yelling out, Mega Claw. The attack tore the Tenga's armor apart. It even tore off some of their flesh under the armor. The wound was gushing with blood, making the Tenga pass out. Kiba turned around to see the damage done and smirked behind his helmet. He looked behind the Tenga and said, now Akamaru. A bark was Kiba's only reply. Then, a blue blur blew through the Tenga. When the blur came through, the Tenga were hit and knocked away. The blur stopped by Kiba and showed itself to be Akamaru. Akamaru was also trained by Okamisere. Okamisere put small weights on Akamaru's body and gave the dog exercises to do to increase his chakra reserves. He also taught a move to Akamaru called the Hyper Sprint. With that move, Akamaru temporarily gained an incredible amount of speed. Whether to relay messages or impale Tenga with his horn in ranger form was his choice. Akamaru then growled at the other Tenga, intimidating them. He then jumped at one Tenga, tackling it to the ground. Akamaru then used his teeth to tear into the flesh of the Tenga's shoulder. Kiba called on the power of his wolf lance. He ran toward the Tenga with his lance. Kiba jumped into the air, and brought his lance down on a Tenga's head, knocking him out. Akamaru had then tackled another Tenga, Watching Akamaru, Kiba chuckled again. He was using another attack that Okami-sere taught him. It was called the Jaws of Death. The attack focused more power to Akamaru's jaw muscles and increased the density and strength of his teeth, giving a lot more power to his bite. It was designed to tear through Tenga's armor and get to their soft tissue underneath. Kiba looked toward one of the Tenga and blocked a punch with the lance. He swatted away 2 more attacks, then smacked the Tenga across the face with the lance. Jumping back from a fireball, Kiba broke his staff in half. He threw each half at each of the Tenga, cutting them on their arms. Kiba then charged forward, using his claws to cut the necks of the Tenga, further doing damage. Kiba picked up the 2 ends of his lance and put them together. He then turned around, blocking the fireballs from the Tenga. He turned to see Akamaru behind them, tackling one. Kiba charged forward, stabbing the last Tenga with his lance, ending this once and for all. Kiba said, "Good boy. We'll have to use that in battle more often." When Kiba was done congratulating Akamaru, Okami-sere walked forward and said, "You two did good. But now I have to teach Akamaru and you a few more attacks. Kiba, your attack is called the Wolf Fang Fist. Basically, you dig deep into yourself and channel your inner wolf spirit. That power is then released in a show of brute strength. It is a move that is very dangerous to those on the wrong end of it. It basically gave birth to the Wolf Fang Fist fighting style." Okami-sere then transformed to a blue ball of compressed energy. He then flew toward Akamaru and entered his body. He did this to talk to Akamaru personally without Kiba hearing. After a few minutes, Okami-sere came out and reformed. He then sent a mental video to Kiba on the move. It showed a young man charging forward, in a weird stance. When he reached his opponent, he started clawing at them with the destructive behavior of a wolf sighting its prey. When he was done, the practice dummy he demonstrated on was nothing but a huge pile of feathers. Okami-sere said, "I know Kiba, it is cool, isn't it?" Kiba yelled, "Hell yes, well then, let's get started on it." When Okami-sere revived the Tenga, he had them stand still and taught Kiba the attack moves of the Wolf Fang Fist. When Kiba got them down, he practiced with one of the Tenga. After messing up a few times, Kiba was able to get it right. After a few more standing Tenga, Okami-sere proposed the idea of charging the attack up with chakra. Kiba did that, and the first claw attack left gashes in the armor of the Tenga. After practicing with it a few times, Kiba realized that using that too much would get draining after a while. Kiba then decided to up his weights and training regimen to increase his chakra reserves. After a few more tries, Kiba said, "Okay sensei, I think I'm ready for a moving target now." Okami said, "Okay then." Okami moved to the sidelines, then the Tenga started moving. Kiba saw one of them shoot a fireball at him. Kiba brought his hand around. His hand was in a slashing motion. Claws came out of his gauntlets where his fingernails should be. He came down and slashed the fireball, dissipating it. Kiba then charged forward, gaining speed. He jumped and twisted in the air, kicking the Tenga with his left leg. When he landed, he immediately got into a stance. His left leg was stretched out in front of him. Kiba was leaning and putting all his weight on his right leg, which was bent behind him. His left hand was guarding his midsection, while his right hand was in front of his neck, ready to guard his face if need be. When the Tenga was about to get up, Kiba charged the bird-human hybrid. He started gaining speed, and yelled out, "Wolf Fang Fist." He brought his right hand around and slashed the Tenga across his face, then started attacking its midsection with slash after slash of razor-sharp claws. After numerous lightning-fast hits, he lifted his front leg up, balancing on his back leg with his hands in the air, then leaned forward, jutting his claws out in a stab to the sternum. The Tenga didn't stand a chance. Kiba's Wolf Fang Fist completely annihilated it. Okami-sere said, "Good Kiba. That was the last thing I'll teach you for now. I suggest you rest for a while. Maybe go grab some lunch with your friends. Taka and Kijuki tell me that they're finished with their training for today." Kiba smiled a little and said, "I just may do that," and walked out of the virtual room. He made it to the main floor of the command center, surrounded everywhere by pedestals of machines. Again, think Power Rangers Turbo. When he got there, he saw Naruto sitting in a chair with Hinata beside him watching something on the monitor. Kiba saw that Hinata was sitting close to Naruto and sighed tiredly. Even though she was sitting so close, She looked like she would faint in a few seconds. He had known Hinata since they were 6. She was like a little sister to him, and he hated to see her so shy. She had missed out on a lot of things when she was a kid because she was shy. Kiba didn't want to see her miss out on her first love. That's when an idea brewed in his mind. He was gonna get those two together if he had to lock them in a room and forbid them from coming out until they had grandbabies. He went up to Hinata and Naruto and said, "Hey guys, I'm getting hungry. You wanna get some food back in the village?" At their replies of approval, they all stood up. Naruto said, "When we teleport, follow me. There's nobody at my apartment except me, so it's a safe spot to teleport to." After determining where to teleport, they concentrated on their power of teleportation and transported themselves to Naruto's apartment. When they landed, they left out the door and went to the Ichiraku ramen shop down the road. They walked in and ordered ramen and ate. Halfway through the meal, Kiba said, "Hey guys, I gotta go urinate. I'll be back in a minute." Kiba then left the restaurant, leaving the two. As he was about to teleport back to Gamma 4, Okami told him to wait. Kiba closed his eyes and said to Okami, "What's happening?" Ukami's deep voice echoed in Kiba's head. On the northern border of town is a Tenga attack. They have a monster with them. I don't know his name, but he doesn't seem that strong. It's nothing you guys can't handle. Kiba opened up his mind and used a new power that he and the other rangers got. It was the power to talk to each other telepathically. He opened up the link and said, "You guys heard that right." Hinata's voice came up, saying, "Yeah, we'd better get over there and help." Naruto then said, "My thoughts exactly, let's go." He took for the roofs toward the attack, with the others following him. While running, the three preteens crossed their arms across their torsos and yelled, "Ninjetti." Naruto uncrossed his arms and moved them to his side, saying, "Falcon Spirit, Ninja Form." Hinata and Kiba repeated the process. Crane, Wolf Spirit, Ninja Form. After separate white, pink, and blue flashes of light, the three ninja-to-be were morphed. In the distance, they could see a plume of smoke rise toward the sky. The three ninja then teleported themselves to a rooftop near the plume of smoke. When they reached the fight, they landed on a rooftop to see how it was going. The ninja were doing better than before, but not much better. They were still getting their asses kicked. Also, the genin were there fighting too. Since the first attack, those genin who stayed and fought were awarded for their efforts. They all made genin, without having to pass the second test. They were dubbed the Rookie 8 inches by the civilians and were the new batch of genin. The others were reprimanded by the Hokage and were barred from ever becoming ninja or joining the academy. Naruto thought that was an appropriate punishment. If they couldn't stand up for the village, they shouldn't be in the village's army. He focused on the attack and saw that Choji had put on a vest taped all around with kunai pointing outward, and he did his human expansion jutsu. He then tucked into a ball and rolled over the Tenga. This did a lot more damage than it did before. This time the Tenga had puncture wounds in their bodies that were bleeding badly. It looked like Shikamaru learned a new jutsu since before. He caught the monsters in a shadow possession jutsu like before, but this was different. Black hands rose out of their shadows and strangled them. It must have had a pretty strong grip because after 10 seconds, the Tenga blacked out and the hands were seated into the shadow. Sasuke was also kicking ass. He was wreaking havoc on the Tenga with his new jutsu. It was called the Phoenix Flower Jutsu. It shot multiple fireballs, which hit multiple Tenga at once, and a lot weren't expecting the attack. Of the genin fighting, Shino was doing the worst. He relied on his bugs to tire his enemy out, but his bugs didn't like the energy of the Tenga. Shino's taijutsu style was just for defending, so that's all he could do. When Shino was about to be cornered by 10 Tenga, Rock Lee jumped in to help him. Lee came in with a leaf whirlwind and knocked the Tenga backwards. Along with Lee, Shino was able to turn the tides of his battle. But there were still a lot of Tenga that were coming and eventually they would take the ninja. Naruto opened the link with the group and said, "All right now, let's go." Naruto and the others jumped off the building and landed in the middle of the fight. Naruto started sending orders telepathically. He said, "Kiba, help Shino and Lee. Hinata, go help Sasuke, Choji, and Shikamaru. I'll help the Junin." The pink and blue rangers moved out without another word, listening to the orders of their leader. Hinata ran towards Sasuke's fight, the closest one to her. She saw that he was in a 3-on-1 fight and decided to help him. She jumped into the fight with a kick to the chest of the nearest Tenga. She jumped to Sasuke's side and said, "It's okay. I'm here to help." Sasuke looked at her and thought to himself, "Who does she think she is? I don't need her help. Or that other guy's help. I am an Uchiha. An elite. I don't need anyone else, I can do this myself." Sasuke turned to the Tenga and said with irritation, "I don't need your help. I can take these bird brains down by myself." Sasuke then ran at the Tenga, intending to defeat them. Hinata sighed behind her ninja mask and thought, "This isn't going to end well." Sasuke charged the Tenga and opened with a right hook to the face of the one nearest him. He then buried a left uppercut in its stomach and a right knee in its chest. He then brought his right leg up into a kick to the temple of the Tenga. Unfortunately for the Uchiha, the Tenga ducked under his kick and used its right arm to bury a fist into Sasuke's stomach. While Sasuke backed up a little from the punch, the Tenga gathered energy in its beak and was about to shoot a fireball at the Uchiha's hairdo. Hinata was watching Sasuke's fight with the Tenga and saw that it was about to turn ugly. She thought to herself, "I guess this is where I jump in." She ran at Sasuke's fight and got between him and the Tenga, intending to protect Sasuke. She then charged the Tenga, intending to get there before it let its fireball loose. Just as the Tenga was about to shoot its fireball, Hinata appeared in front of it and brought her right foot into the beak of the Tenga and forced his head to point up, the fireball not doing damage to anyone. Hinata retracted her foot, just to kick the Tenga in its chest. She turned to Sasuke and said, "What was that about not needing my help?" Sasuke just grunted in anger and turned to the other two Tenga and started fighting them. Hinata sighed again and muttered to herself, "There's no getting to him, is there?" She followed him to his battle to help. As she was about to fight one, Sasuke shoved her out of the way and said, "I said don't get in my way." Hinata thought to Kijukasere, what is his problem? She heard Kijuki sigh and say, "His pride is getting in the way of his brain. He doesn't want to admit that he needs help, or he'll look weaker in his eyes. Don't pay him any mind. Just save his ass when he's about to die." Hinata said back, "Okay, it looks like that moment is coming soon." Just as Hinata said, after a few minutes of battling, Sasuke made a mistake in taking his attention off one Tenga and concentrating fully on another. He tried to punch one Tenga in his jaw, only for the other Tenga to knock his feet out from under him, causing him to fall backwards. The Tengas then started attacking him violently. They ganged up on him and started raining down blows on him. Hinata took that as the time to jump in. She charged and delivered a flying kick to the back of a Tenga. The Tenga started falling forward and rolled from the attack. She then grabbed the other one by its arm and punched it in its chest multiple times. She then kicked it in its head. After she got rid of the Tenga, Hinata went and helped Sasuke up. He struggled to get up, and after getting up on one knee, he shoved Hinata out of the way, saying, "I told you before I don't need your help." He then got up limping, but after a while fell back down. Hinata walked over to him and put a hand on his back. He turned her way and yelled, "I said before I don't need your damn help." Hinata glared at him through her mask and said, "Well, like it or not you got it." She then told Kijukasere to transport her to the Konoha hospital. When she got there, she laid Sasuke on the ground and told Kijuki to take her back to the fighting. When she got there, she saw that Shikamaru and Choji weren't doing so well. They were surrounded by Tenga. They were also running on empty as they used all their chakra to fight and were exhausted. Hinata quickly jumped into the fight. She said, "Don't worry, I'm here to help." At her arrival, the Tenga started moving in. They were getting closer. From their previous fights with the Rangers, they knew that if one of the Rangers showed up, they were in serious trouble. A few of the Tenga then started battling Hinata. One Tenga came in with a punch, aimed at her face. Hinata saw it coming and easily dodged. She then grabbed the arm, and threw the Tenga onto the ground. Another Tenga charged forward, trying to catch her while she was open. But the Tenga only caught the bottom end of her boot into its mouth. Hinata then waited until another Tenga came forward to fight. She dodged his kick, his punch, then caught his other punch. She then twirled him in a circle, and let him go. The Tenga sailed through the air and hit 3 other Tenga. Shikamaru saw what Hinata was doing and thought to himself, "She's mainly just defending. I can see why. With the number of enemies she's fighting, if she tried to attack them all head-on, she'd die quickly. But she's taking advantage of their missed attacks and defeating them." Shoji saw what Hinata was doing and felt something like sadness well up in him. He thought to himself, this is the third time these mysterious people had to save us. Are our ninjas so weak we must depend on complete strangers to help us? And when they come to save our asses, we're nothing but burdens to them in battle. Well, I won't be. Not anymore. I'm not gonna put my life into the hands of complete strangers and hope they save me. I'm gonna make sure my own power is enough to save myself and my friends. While Choji was having his inner monologue, Hinata was still defending herself against the Tenga. She could keep up her dodge and attack efforts all day, but she doesn't have anything to kill them with, so they would just keep getting up and attacking her again. While Hinata was concentrating on the Tenga, she could see she was about to be attacked by one behind her. Choji was looking in the direction she was at and saw the Tenga. Choji thought to himself, now is my chance. Choji grabbed a kunai from his pouch and wrapped an explosive tag around it. He then threw it at the Tenga, hitting it right in the back of the head. The kunai got lodged in its head, just as the explosive note exploded and got Tenga brain guts on everyone around, including Shikamaru and Hinata. Kijuki, who was watching the battle, said, "Oh great, now you're becoming like Naruto too." Hinata looked sheepish and said to Kijuki, "Sorry." Hinata then continued on with the battle. Although she wasn't able to kill any Tenga, she was able to knock them unconscious. When there were only 2 Tenga left, the Tenga backed away from Hinata. All of a sudden, their arms grew wings and they took off. The Tenga were a lot faster in the air than on the ground. They zoomed past Hinata and took the 2 genin she was protecting. The Tenga holding Shikamaru said, "Haha. You can't get us now, Crane. We rule the skies, and you can't fly." Hinata looks at them and said to her inner crane spirit, "What do I do? Any kunai I throw up there will just be dodge. Or they might move Shikamaru and Choji in the way of the weapons. I can fly, but I can't move as well as them." Kijuki heard the worry in the voice of her acolyte and said, "Don't you worry your pretty little head. Just let me take over and I'll get them for you." Trusting Kijukasere, Hinata let her take over her body. Hinata closed her eyes a little, and when they reopened, they were glowing pink. Kijuki was now in control. She said, "I have the spirit of the crane. Of course I can fly." Kijuki bent Hinata's knees, and took off at the Tenga like a bat out of hell. She sped through the air like she'd been doing it all her life. She went for the Tenga holding Choji and punched him in the face during his momentary lack of defense at her flight ability. She then grabbed Choji by the back of his shirt and threw him at the Tenga holding Shikamaru. The Tenga couldn't move out of the way in time and fell under the strain of the boy's weight. As the Tenga fell, Kijuki flew toward the falling boys and grabbed the back of their shirts. She then gently sat them down on the ground. As soon as they were on the ground, Kijuki gave back control to Hinata. Before speaking, Hinata said to Kijuki, "You have to teach me that sometime." Kijuki chuckled a little and said, "All in time, my little one." Hinata said, "You too all right?" Shikamaru said, "Yeah, I think so." He and Choji had a few cuts and bruises, but nothing lethal. Hinata said, "Okay then, but you two better get to the hospital, just in case." Hinata then said to Kijukasere, "Teleport these two to a hospital." In a flash of white, Choji and Shikamaru were gone. They reappeared in the hospital, leaving Hinata alone on the battlefield. With Kiba moved over to Shino's and Lee's fights to see that they were doing badly. They were doing better than Shino did alone, but not by much. Since Lee could go on the offensive, they were better able to defeat the Tenga. But the Tenga had numbers on their side. Shino had just blocked a punch from a Tenga and grabbed the arm, holding the Tenga in place. Lee came forward and jumped. He twisted in the air, and with a yell of "Leaf Whirlwind," he knocked the Tenga unconscious. More and more Tenga came to attack the duo. Kiba saw them being completely overwhelmed. He said to himself, "I guess I jump in now." He jumped off of the building he was standing on and right into the middle of the fight. He grabbed the nearest Tenga to him and punched it in the face. He then twisted around, kicking a Tenga in the temple. He grabbed another Tenga, then punched it in its stomach, then the face, and threw it into a crowd of other Tengas. Kiba turned to Shino and Lee and said, "I'm sorry. Mind if I interrupt?" At Shino's and Lee's head shaking, Kiba continued with his attack. He jumped into the crowd of Tenga, extracting his claws and doing damage. He would basically twist around with his claws out, tearing open who or whatever got in his way. The Tenga were able to avoid the claws, but the unlucky Tenga were hit. One of the Tenga got behind Kiba and grabbed him around his waist. He hoisted Kiba up in the air, so Kiba's feet couldn't reach the ground. When Kiba tried to swing his arms backwards to hit the Tenga, 4 more came up and grabbed his arms and legs. Kiba was completely held down and there was nothing he could do about it. Other Tenga then took turns coming up and punching Kiba. The one holding Kiba from behind let go and started punching Kiba also. Lee and Shino were each fighting 2 Tenga at a time. Since Kiba came in and helped, they were doing better than ever. And since the Tenga didn't have numbers on their side, Lee and Shino made quick work of them. But they looked over to see that Kiba was in trouble. Lee ran toward the Tenga, gaining speed. He then jumped in the air and let loose a flying sidekick, yelling, "Dynamic entry." His yell of surprise made the Tenga holding Kiba's left arm turn around a little. That mistake got him kicked in the side of the face. The Tenga got knocked away for a distance and skidded on the ground, letting Kiba's hand go in the process. But Lee wasn't done there. He bent down low, rotating as he went. He yelled out, "Leaf violent wind," and knocked out the feet from the Tenga that had Kiba's left leg. He then kicked it in its face while it was down. Kiba immediately extended the claws on his left hand and stabbed them into the neck of the Tenga holding his right arm. He then used the claws on both hands and shoved them into the neck of the Tenga holding his right leg. He then picked it up by its leg and threw it into the crowd of Tenga trying to attack him. After saying a quick thanks to Lee, Kiba charged the remaining Tenga, with Lee and Shino close behind him. Kiba came forward with a downward slash, which hit a Tenga in the chest, tearing some of the armor off. Shino, who was close behind, jumped over Kiba and kicked the Tenga in its chest as it was staggering backwards, breaking more of the armor. As the Tenga was falling, Lee jumped over the both of them and nailed the Tenga with a leaf whirlwind, breaking its neck. Kiba jumped on another Tenga and dug his claws in its neck, purple blood spurting out and getting on his suit. Kiba paid it no mind and kept going around, stabbing, slashing, and killing any Tenga he could. Lee and Shino were teaming up, taking the Tenga out one by one. Shino would take out the Tenga's defenses, while Lee came in and finished them off. Working as a team, they completely dominated the Tenga. Kiba turned to where the others were to see that Hinata was done with her part, and they both moved to help Naruto. With Naruto, after telling his team what to do, Naruto himself moved out. He jumped off the building and into the battle of the Junins. He started looking around to survey how they were doing. Most of the Junin weren't doing that good. Mainly Asuma, Kurenai, Kakashi and Guy. Asuma and Kurenai were working together. Somehow, Genjutsu worked on the Tenga. Kurenai was putting them in small Genjutsu, then pulling out kunai and aiming for their temples, easily killing them. Asuma used these weird weapons that were like knuckle knives. They had this small blue aura around them, and when the aura came into contact with a Tenga, it completely sliced their armor. Kakashi had a small tanto in his hand. He was going around, using that blade to slash apart the Tenga. The weird thing about the blade was that when it slashed, it left a white aura behind, which disappeared. The blade was also very powerful. It sliced the Tenga up like Asuma's knuckle knives. Asuma, Kurenai, and Kakashi were using dangerous weapons to destroy the Tenga. The last Junin, Maida Guy, wasn't using a weapon. His speed combined with his power, Guy could destroy and go around the defenses of the enemy and snap their neck with a single kick or a chop. He didn't need one to destroy the Tenga. These Junin were kicking ass. Seeing them in battle reminded Naruto just why they were the best at what they do. The Junin were making quick work of the Tenga this time. They had seen the Tenga's fighting style in the last battle. A week before this attack, the Hokage sent them a private message to remember the way those Tenga fought, saying that they might need to fight them again. Obviously, he was right. Seeing them fight, Naruto knew that they didn't need any help. But Naruto didn't think that it was fair that the Junin got to have all the fun. Seeing a Tenga about to sneak up on Kurenai, Naruto decided it was time to jump in. Smiling behind his mask, Naruto jumped off of the building top and glided towards Kurenai. Kurenai was busy working with Asuma. She had just put a genjutsu over a Tenga and Asuma came in with his knuckle knives and eviscerated said Tenga. When he was done, he looked over to Kurenai to congratulate her on a good job. But he saw a Tenga rushing up behind her. He yelled, "Kurenai, behind you." Kurenai turned, but she was too late. The Tenga had already shot off a fireball and it was too close for her to dodge. She closed her eyes, waiting for the pain from the attack. But it never came. She looked around and saw that she was 10 feet in the air, being held by Naruto. Flying back down, Naruto dropped Kurenai down and landed next to her. He said, "I thought you could use a little help." Kurenai said, "Thanks." Naruto replied, "No problem, now we have to handle these freaks." Naruto charged the Tenga that attacked Kurenai, with Asuma and Kurenai behind him. Reaching the Tenga first, Naruto punched it in its face, knocking it off balance. Kurenai then came forward, moving around Naruto and kicking the Tenga in the chest. Asuma pulled up the rear, rushing forward with his knuckle knives, tearing the Tenga's armor. Naruto's presence caused the Tenga to look toward the trio. 10 Tenga stopped their fights with Junin and rushed toward them. Naruto said, "It looks like their boss put a hit out on me." Asuma said, "Need a little help?" Naruto said, "No, but you're willing to join in the fun whenever you want." The 2 Junin and 1 Genin met the Tenga. Naruto ducked under a kick from a Tenga and rolled forward, leaving the Tenga to one of the Junin. Naruto blocked another kick and pushed the foot away. He then punched the Tenga in its face. He ducked under a punch from another Tenga and elbowed it in the face. He blocked and grabbed a Tenga's fist as it tried to punch him. Naruto then pulled it towards himself, making the Tenga off balance. Naruto held onto the fist and used it to twirl the Tenga around and hit the surrounding ones. After hitting the surrounding Tenga, he dropped the one he was holding onto and kicked it in the face. Naruto blocked a fast jab from a Tenga, then blocked a kick and another punch. Seeing the Tenga about to kick him again, Naruto barely ducked under it. He swept the Tenga's feet out from under it, making it land on the ground on its face in a heap. When he stood back up, Naruto was hit from behind with a fireball. Turning around, Naruto was about to attack the Tenga, but Asuma beat him to it. Asuma used his knuckle knives and stabbed the Tenga in its stomach. Naruto jumped up and levitated in the air, looking over what was happening. He saw that Kurenai and Asuma had taken out the Tenga. Naruto thought, "Those knuckle knives and kunai do some damage." Looking around, Naruto saw that Kakashi and Guy were back to back with 20 Tengas surrounding them. Naruto turned to Asuma and Kurenai and said, "You think we should help One Eye and the Jolly Green Giant?" The 2 chuckled a little, but Asuma said, "Yeah, we should." Naruto then concentrated and asked Takesere to teleport the 3 to the other 2 Junin. When it was completed, they were standing right next to the other 2 Junin. Naruto gave a half smile and yelled, "Everyone take 4, and charge." The other 4 Junin followed. Kakashi pulled out his Tanto and used it to cut through a Tenga's armor. He used the blade to block a punch from the Tenga and slashed it again, further damaging its armor. Seeing an opening, Kakashi stabbed the Tenga through its chest. Kakashi ducked under a punch from a Tenga and sliced its ankle, damaging it. Kakashi then pulled his Tanto up and stabbed the Tenga through the head, making it fall to the ground dead. Kakashi then focused chakra into the blade, activating the special ability of the Tanto. He ran toward a Tenga, who shot fireballs at him. Kakashi started slashing each fireball and then stabbed the Tenga through the chest. The blade went in the Tenga's chest, cut through the armor and its skin and muscle, and anything else in its way, and came out of the Tenga's back. Kakashi pulled the blade out and sensed a Tenga coming from behind him. Kakashi waited, making it look like he wasn't the wiser. When the Tenga jumped at him, intending to kill him, Kakashi focused chakra into the blade and brought the blade around, slicing the Tenga's head off. Guy charged his own Tenga and jumped in the air. He kicked a Tenga in its face, knocking it into 2 other Tenga. When they got up, Guy ducked under the punch one threw and landed an uppercut in a Tenga's chest. Guy stood up to his full height and chopped the back of the Tenga's neck. When a Tenga tried to punch him, Guy brought his foot up, kicking the bird's fist away. The Tenga then tried a kick, but Guy kicked the Tenga's leg, stopping the attack. The Tenga tried another punch, but Guy kicked the punch out of the way, then brought the foot across the right side of the Tenga's face. He then brought his foot back across the left side of the Tenga's face. Guy then brought his fist up and punched the Tenga in its face. He broke the Tenga's beak and knocked it out. Guy looked over to the other Tenga and charged them. He ducked under and dodged the fireballs of the Tenga, making it look like child's play. When he got up to the Tenga, they were about to shoot off another blast. Guy jumped in the air and yelled, "Great Leaf Whirlwind." He brought his foot across the Tenga's face, making the Tenga do a 360-degree spin in the air, knocking it out. He ducked under the fireballs that a Tenga shot at him. Showing a small amount of his true speed, Guy disappeared. The Tenga couldn't keep up with his speed. He reappeared under a Tenga and kicked it in the air, knocking it out. Asuma ran at his Tenga, using his knuckle knives. Even without using his wind chakra, his knuckle knives were something to fear. He jumped over a fireball that a Tenga shot at him, coming down with his knives stabbing one Tenga through the head with the left one. As Asuma landed, he stabbed the Tenga in the temple with the right knife, taking it down for good. He ducked under a fireball that a Tenga shot at him, then jumped in the air. Kurenai snuck up behind the Tenga and used a genjutsu to change the Tenga's vision to seem like they were dizzy. The Tenga shot the fireball off, but it passed completely under Asuma. Kurenai then pulled out a kunai and stabbed it through its head. She turned to her left, spying more Tenga trying to attack her. She put the same illusion over them, making them shoot to her left and right, allowing herself to pull out a kunai and throw it at the Tenga on the left. The kunai buried itself in the Tenga's temple, killing it instantly. She didn't have to worry about the other Tenga as Asuma dashed at it from the side and sliced the Tenga's neck open. Asuma and Kurenai found the last 4 Tenga shooting at them. Asuma ran for the Tenga, distracting them, while Kurenai put them under an illusion. To them, Asuma was there. Then the Tenga were suddenly in a field of cherry trees. Looking around, they didn't see the smoking Junin anywhere. Suddenly, one of them dropped to the ground with a kunai in their head. Another 2 joined him when they felt their throats slit. The last one was given a painless death due to a kunai entering his head, killing him instantly. The preteen ranger charged the last 4 Tenga not taken by the Junin. Although he didn't have any fancy weapons, his fists worked just as good. He charged the Tenga and punched one in its beak. He blocked the punch that Tenga tried to hit him with, and then ducked under the kick. He punched the Tenga in the beak again, causing the Tenga to hold its beak in pain. Naruto pulled his foot back, and sent a bone-shattering kick to the Tenga's stomach. The Tenga's eyes shot out from its head and it dropped to its knees in pain. Naruto grabbed the Tenga by the head, and smashed its face into his knee. He then picked it up and threw it towards the other Tenga. Following the thrown Tenga, Naruto tackled another Tenga to the ground. He pulled his right fist back and punched the Tenga in its head. He pulled his left back and did the same thing. He then repeated the process, driving his fists into the bird's skull. Before he could finish the job, he was lifted from behind by a Tenga and held down. Before Naruto could do anything, he felt his feet leave the ground. He looked down to see he was 20 feet in the air. The Tenga then let him drop, forgetting the fact that Naruto could fly. When he was let go, Naruto just levitated in the air, surprising the Tenga. Naruto rose up to the Tenga's level, grabbing its head and punching it. The Tenga flew back farther, but it was able to stop itself easier. The Tenga charged up energy in its mouth and shot a fireball at him. Naruto stopped levitating, letting gravity claim him and drop under the fireball. He flew towards the Tenga with the intention of tackling it, but the Tenga dodged. Seeing an opening, the Tenga shot Naruto in his back with a fireball, the attack connecting. Turning around, Naruto charged the Tenga again and kicked it in its chest. The Tenga was knocked backwards, but was able to recover quickly. Naruto flew towards the Tenga, but was blindsided by a fireball shot by a Tenga. When he recovered, he realized that the last 3 Tenga had risen up to his level and were all getting ready to shoot him. Seeing this, Naruto dropped to the ground. The fireballs hit each other at the middle. Activating his levitation ability to land safely to the ground, Naruto looked to the ground and saw kunai littering it. He moved to the kunai and picked them up. He then turned to see all the Junin done with their Tenga. Naruto called out to Kurenai. "Kurenai-san, I need your help." Turning to Naruto, Kurenai said, "What do you need my help with?" Naruto pointed to the skies and saw the 3 Tenga circling them, taunting Naruto to return to the skies. "I need you to put them into a genjutsu so I can kill them without them hurting anyone." Kurenai closed her eyes, concentrating, trying to put the Tenga in a genjutsu from this distance. It was hard, but she was eventually able to. She forced the Tenga to land on the ground, giving Naruto enough time to run to them and lodge 3 kunai into the back of their heads. Seeing that all of their enemies were defeated, the Junin all gave a sigh of relief, thinking that the battle was over. Naruto, though, had been watching the battles of the original Power Rangers. He knew that when the grunts were defeated, Rita and her husband Zed would usually send out a monster. Seeing as Rito hadn't had much experience being a monster general, he didn't have much to go on except what he saw his sister and his brother-in-law do. Looking at the resting Junin, Naruto said, "I wouldn't rest if I were you. The worst is about to come." Kakashi looked at Naruto and said, "How do you know?" Naruto said, "I know because I know their boss. Their boss is gonna send in the grunts to weaken us, then take us out with the big monster." And sure enough, a purple beam came from somewhere, depositing a monster on the outside of Konoha's walls. With a roar, the monster walked through the gates of Konoha. The monster was a sickly green. Its eye was in the middle of its chest. At the bottom of his chest was an opening where a purple tongue hung out, dripping saliva. Its shoulders were huge for its body size, as were the monster's thighs. The monster had silver blades coming out of its shoulders and head. On its hands were 3 massive claws each and 3 smaller ones in between. When the monster came, Naruto turned to the Junin and said, "Told ya so." When the 4 Junin got up, they all turned to the monster. Naruto said, "Let's attack it at once." The 5 fighters rushed the monster, with Kakashi first, Asuma next, Guy after Asuma, and Kurenai and Naruto bringing up the rear. Kakashi came up first with his Tanto. He sliced the monster through the midsection, the monster holding his chest in pain. Asuma then came with his knuckle knives and cut where Kakashi's Tanto had. Guy then came up with a great leaf whirlwind attack aimed right at the monster's head. Kurenai followed with 2 kunai in her hands and she stabbed the monster twice in the midsection. Naruto brought up the rear with a flying sidekick to the head, knocking the monster over. Kakashi said, "Is that it?" Naruto narrowed his eyes under his mask and said, "We didn't leave any significant damage to the monster. It'll get back up." Kakashi said, "I know that you know more about this than me, but what makes you think it'll get up from that?" Naruto said, "Because of the simple fact that it's getting back up right now." Kakashi looked and, sure enough, the monster was getting back up. The monster chuckled and said, "Please don't tell me that's all you have. That tickled." Naruto was about to say something, but then he heard Takesere trying to talk to him. Takesere said, "Naruto, go into your ranger form. This is Repellator. He's not someone to take easily. Don't hold back." Naruto said, "Hold up a second. Ninjetti." Naruto crossed his arms in front of him, white lighting surrounding them. He yelled, "Falcon Spirit, Ranger form." The lightning emerged out of his wrist guards. The lighting charges connected, forming a ring around him. He put his arms to his sides, forming a lightning ring around himself. The lightning formed into a solid ring. The ring then split into 2 identical circles, both around his midsection, one on top of the other. The rings then moved outward. The lower one moved toward his feet and the upper one moved toward his head. As it was moving, his ranger form started replacing his ninja form. After the rings reached their destination, they disappeared, their job of morphing Naruto into ranger form complete. Finishing his transformation, Naruto said, "Let's just kick his ass." Repellator saw Naruto morph and started laughing. He said, "So the leader of the Power Rangers decided to show his face, huh?" Naruto said, "Less talking, more ass kicking." Naruto, without warning, sprinted forward, the other Junin half a step behind him. Naruto drew his sword and jumped at Repellator. He focused chakra into the blade, and swung, yelling, "Judgment cut." The crescent of energy sailed forward, hitting Repellator in the chest. Naruto landed right in front of Repellator, slashing him across the face, sending him stumbling back a little. Kakashi dashed forward, trying to cut Repellator with his Tanto. Repellator quickly recovered from Naruto's attack and blocked Kakashi's Tanto attack. He then slashed Kakashi across the chest, sending him spinning to the ground. Naruto rushed to Kakashi's side, helping him up. He said, "Use the Tanto's special ability. That might hurt him more." Naruto turned back to see the other Junin behind him. He said, "I'll lead, you guys follow." Naruto held his sword up vertically with the blade facing Repellator. He said, "Slice them to ribbons, Takesere." With that command, Naruto's sword started to glow white and gold. It then broke up into hundreds of little pieces. Naruto pointed a finger at Repellator. and the blades took off. They surged forward, cutting Repellator again and again. Naruto turned to Kakashi and yelled, "Now!" The Junin charged forward, intending to hit Repellator while he was distracted. Kakashi came forward with his Tonto and activated its special power. He slashed the monster through the chest, damaging it. Asuma then came forward with his knuckle knives. He stabbed the monster in its chest, knocking it back. Kurenai came forward with a kick, knocking him off balance. Guy then came in, yelling, "Great Leaf Whirlwind," and kicking the monster in its face. Naruto then sent his blades into a tornado, tearing and damaging the monster. When it all ended, the monster was knocked down. The Junin regrouped, ready to fight again. Naruto said, "We damaged him, but not to the point where he's dead. He'll get back up soon." A voice behind them said, "Well, if he does get back up, we'll be here to knock him back down." Turning around, Naruto saw the other two additions to his ranger team. Kiba and Hinata were there in their ninja forms, ready to do battle. He telepathically said to them, "Morph into your ranger forms for this. I don't think he's done yet." Kiba and Hinata both crossed their arms in front of their chest, yelling, "Ninjetti." Wolf, Crane Spirit, Ranger form. After morphing, they turned to Repellator, waiting for him to get back up. He got up, looking to see all three armed Rangers and Akamaru. Naruto smirked behind his helmet, yelling, "Rangers, attack." The three ran forward, with Akamaru leading them. Using his hyper sprint ability, Akamaru charged forward with his horn in front. He stabbed Repellator in the chest, purple blood leaking out and Repellator yelling. Kiba charged forward, yelling, "Mega Claw," and slashing Repellator across the eye. Repellator then let loose a blood-wrenching yell. Kiba saw where he attacked and yelled, "Guys, his huge eye is his weak point. Attack him there." Naruto said, "Good going, K-Blue." Almost blowing their cover, he charged forward, with Hinata standing back. He had his sword in his right hand, and got into the position for a streak. He charged up the blade of the sword with a judgment cut. He then charged forward, yelling, "X streak," and cut the monster across the eye. The attack gave off a blue light, burning his eye. Naruto turned back and telepathically said, "Hinata, your turn." Hinata took aim at his eye, getting the crane bow right on point. She pulled the string back, and then yelled, "Blaze Arrow." The attack sailed forward, but Hinata didn't give it time to hit. She pulled the string back again, and let it go, yelling, "Freeze Arrow." That one went forward, but Hinata pulled the string back a third time. She then let it go, yelling, "Lightning Arrow." The three elemental arrows sailed forward, all hitting Repellator in his eye. His eye was burned, froze, and shocked. Repellator let out another scream and fell down. The Rangers turned to their enemy. They were getting ready to deliver a final blow. Before they could though, a purple beam shone on Repellator. All of a sudden, he disappeared. Kiba yelled, "What happened?" Naruto said gravely, "Rito was watching the battle. He saw that we were about to kill Repellator, so he rescued him. He's probably gonna send him back when Repellator gets better. Hopefully, that won't be until a long time." Hinata said, "So what do we do until then?" Naruto said, "We rest. We regroup. We get stronger, and we wait. There's nothing we can do." Naruto then continued telepathically, "Besides, we gotta get some shut-eye. Tomorrow we have to go to the academy and they'll announce what teams we're on." Naruto then asked Takesere to teleport them and the Junin to the hospital. When they got there, they saw the rest of the Konoha 8 there, all healed. Naruto said, "Once again, I'd like to thank you all for your help. You all performed greatly today. Hopefully, next time they try to strike, we can repel them as successfully as we did this time." Naruto and the other Power Rangers then disappeared in flashes of their respective colors. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next part.